I think what I like is to have a healthy mix of people that have institutional knowledge versus in the trenches knowledge. So people have been there, done that, and they've built businesses, or they've been, say the VP of sales for something that's gone from, 5 million to 50 million or 100 million. And then there's people who have, done consulting at McKinsey, and they work with companies between 50 and a billion, right? And so I think each of them have a different kind of knowledge. I think that I look at it more as not the knowledge that one person has, but like collective knowledge of the team.
And unfortunately, people who are starting out mistake making $0 as a lack of progress. But the reality is that you have a lot of steps that are underground that you have to step up below ground zero. The moment you make your first dollar that goes over the bridge from you marketing and selling, the second dollar comes right afterwards. It's not as hard to go from $0 to $1 as it from $1 to $2. Like, it's just getting the first dollar across the bridge that's the hard part. And building the bridge has a lot of breaks.
When me and you first started talking, I'm thinking, God damn, dude, if this dude ran Lightspeed, I'd already be a billionaire. Because, dude, you do stats, you know what you're doing, you're quick, you're still cool. Like, usually you got to be some sort of techie nerd type to be like you. So you've got like the techie nerd that I can't seem to be, and you got the cool. So you're like a unique mix of things. And then also you know how to build culture. You know how to build brands. Like, where'd you learn all this shit?
Everywhere, Google. I say that half jokingly, but I say that in a lot of seriousness. I think, so one of the major beliefs that I've espoused in our whole community is knowing what the path looks like in terms of leveling up as an entrepreneur. And at least how I saw it was, in the beginning, you're acquiring skills. The next level, you're acquiring character traits. And then after that, you're breaking and challenging beliefs. And I see that as three steps that continue to repeat themselves over and over again at each level. And so, like, in the beginning, you're learning how to market and sell, right? You're trying to learn how to promote, learn how to get people to buy stuff, right? You don't even know what you're selling. You're just trying to get somebody to give you money, right? And then you start and stop, and you're shiny object, and you're like, you start doing this thing, you start doing that thing, right? And you're going all over the place because you don't have the character traits that allow you to be disciplined and patient and consistent, right? And so it's like you had these skills, but you weren't applying them because you didn't have the character traits. And so first you learn the skill, then you learn the character traits, and then you change your beliefs about what you should be doing for fulfillment. What you should be doing is the opportunity vehicle that you're going to use to package your skills, then ultimately monetize them in. And then you kind of start all over again. You're like, okay, what skill do I need to learn now? I learned how to sell, but now I got to learn how to train someone else to sell. Then I got to learn how to manage a sales team. Then I got to learn I used to learn how to market, but then I got to learn how to run a graphics department and a video department and copywriting and traffic and media, right? And you're like, oh, wow. So I had to learn each of those skills myself so that I could then teach someone, but then also call someone else out on their BS if they're like, well, that's not possible. You're like,
now see right there, dude, that is my problem, because I was about to say, why'd you have to learn it yourself? Because you don't have to. If you try to be everything to everybody, you're going to end up a small ass company, which again, you've grown your company to how much now?
We did 37 million last year.
See, so dude, that's like, do you think it's hard getting to freaking $37 million? It's I think the percentages are astronomical that most companies like go out of business in the first year. Then after, like, let's say 92%, then after that, out of the small fraction that actually make it a year, 92% of those will never reach more than $10 million revenue.
Yeah.
So you're against all odds. And I'm telling you, and you just said it, you learned it so you could call people on their bullshit.
For me,
because that's what I cannot do. I go back, I say, man, I need the system to do this. I let's make it do that. And then like 7 months later, it's like, where are we? And they're like, well, it takes time. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, let me know. And I'm like, dude, if I knew how to code, I could walk back there and be like, bullshit, bro. This should have been done 6 months ago. You're out. You're out. You're out.
You know how Elon Musk he's an expert at so many things. And I think that's what's allowed him, a zillion other reasons, but one of the reasons he's been able to innovate so well and create so many unique companies is because he knows a lot about programming. He knows a lot about mechanical engineering. He knows a lot about electrical engineering. He knows a lot about chemistry and plastics and materials and he knows how to market, and he knows how to promote, and he knows how to do PR, and he knows how to recruit. And so all of those things are skills that he had to lace together. And at least for me, like, I don't need to be able to know how to do every single thing, but the biggest skill that I think we, right, as CEOs have to know is how to be able to recognize true talent. And there's so many people that talk the talk and sound pretty and look good, but like over time you develop the pattern recognition. You're like, I think you're full of shit. Or like, I think you sound good, but I don't think you have the grit, you know? Yeah, it gets back to the big point. It's like, I need to be able to know what's happening so that I can say whether it's good or not, or how it needs to be improved. And fortunately, the areas that I don't know the most about, like finance and HR, like I don't know anything about that, right? Like I haven't even had the desire to learn about that. I think we had enough interpersonal awareness to be like, this person comes heavily vetted. I talked to all of the CEOs they worked with before. I looked at the track record, and then immediately within the first week, I felt relief, and the things they were doing made sense to me. And then I would check with other people that I know that are just as smart. And I had my other finance buddies interview that person to vet them because it's their skill set, not mine, right? And so that's how I try and cover the blind spots on the areas that I don't know. But for me, at least as CEO, product, marketing, or product and acquisition are the two things that I feel like I have to know better than just about anyone. And acquisition comes to all forms: marketing, sales, lead nurture, the follow-up sequences, pages, funnels, traffic buying. Like, I need to know that stuff really well. And then to the same degree, the product, right? I need to know more specifically what it's supposed to do, not how the lines of code work, but what the problem it's supposed to solve is.
How much time per day did you spend getting up to speed learning?
So I right now work still 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I haven't really stopped that.
And you haven't really what?
I haven't stopped that. I still do that. I don't have kids. My wife works with me. We only need a half day, to feel recharged or whatever. And we start super early. We start at 4 or 5 in the morning, and we usually go until 4 or 5. So that's kind of our schedule: 4 or 5 in the morning, 4 or 5 at night. And then we just take out, last 3 hours of every day. It's just me and my wife, and we have dinner and, just rest and hang out. And then we do it all over the next day. And I've done the same thing since I started.
And folks, if you guys can't see them because you're listening to the audio, you can check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/VT, as in virtual training, Brad Lee, LEA. So you can see the dude. The dude's all ripped. So dude, you have to be working out some during part of that 12 hours.
Usually I work out after work. I just recently started working out first thing. I've done all different times. Usually it just depends on what work I'm doing at what time. I'd say if I'm in a heavy build mode, I tend to do my most creative work in the mornings. And so I get out of bed and I already have things I want to start working on. And then at the end of the day, my brain's tired, but my body's fresh. And so then I'll work out. If I have to make more like strategic decisions and like have to like talk to people and train and coach like the team, then I'll probably work out in the morning so that I'm physically a little bit more calm. And then I can go into the meetings like without my like aggressive side coming out.
So bring me back a little bit. You used to sleep on couches and be just like broke. Were you still like fitness, but just broke? Because I know a lot of dudes that are so into the gym. Yeah. Like they always make fun of me because, I got a little love handle. They're always like, hey, why don't you put a little weight on that bar? And I'm like, why don't you put a little fucking money in the bank? Like at the end of the day, like you can screw with me about being buff, but dude, I can screw with you about being broke. You've got both things covered. But back in the day, were you still into fitness?
I was obsessed with fitness until the day I opened my business, and then it automatically took a backseat. So
you were in shape then?
Yes, I've been in shape. I mean, I've been training since I was 13. So I had a 6-pack when I was 14 years old. Like I've never been out of shape. I think big picture, I've always seeked status. And so really the things that would get me girls. And so, when I was in high school, what got you girls is like, at least I thought, was being in shape. And, that's what I thought.
So you learned it was money?
And in college, it was doing well and then getting a good job afterwards. So I did super well, and I did better in college than I did in high school because I didn't really care as much. Then I got a management consulting job. I finished in 3 years. I was president of the fraternity. I did all the things that you're supposed to do to get status in that community. And then as soon as I graduated, I realized none of that matters. You just got to be rich as shit. And so, and so all of my focus went towards business. But the habits of like, it's hard to unlearn knowing what, like, I know what I'm eating every day because I've been doing it for so long. Like it doesn't take any mental energy. And then like training, it takes so little energy to maintain what you spent years building that I can work out twice a week for 30 minutes and I can maintain like what I look like now.
So you were sleeping on the floor, which basically meant you had no money. Your parents weren't rich. What were they? Middle class?
No, my parents. So my dad's a doctor, but I had so he was like, hey, you should just take over my practice.
What kind?
He's a plastic surgeon. So yeah, he does well. But I never wanted anyone, and this is my own ego. I never wanted anyone to say you were successful because of your dad. Now that being said, my dad loved me and he supported me and he put me in, good school. So like, I can never really get around that, right? He gave me good genetics, whatever you want to say, right? But insofar as like, I saved the money for me working as a management consultant for 2 years. I saved 60 grand. When I was 22, I'd saved 60 grand by the time I turned 23. And that's when I opened my first facility. I spent all of the money I had and I saved $10,000 left over, and the rent was $5,000 a month. And so I had 2 months worth of rent on a 5-year lease, and I had never sold anything in my life. In fact, I was offered a job at Merrill Lynch to be on the sales side for wealth management. And I said, I'm not a salesman. That's not who I am. I'm an academic. And as soon as I opened my doors, I was like, shit, I got to get people to give me money. And so that I learned real fast.
Yeah. So when you were saving that 60 G's and you opened your business, you were basically sleeping on the floor of the business.
Yeah. I slept at the gym for the first 9 months.
So like literally, like that's not one of those, I walked uphill both ways and carried a baked potato on the way so I could keep my hands warm. And when I got there, that was my lunch.
Right. No, I slept on the floor for the first 9 months, but the caveat,
even though you had 60 G's in the bank. No,
I spent that to open the business. So I saved 60 and then I spent that to build the gym. And
where were you sleeping when you saved 60?
Just in my apartment.
Because a lot of times, dude, people can't save $60,000. Like that's, to me, like, dude, you save 60 freaking G's. Like, how do you do that? How old were you?
21 through 23.
See, when I was 21, number one, I'd be lucky if I was making 60 G's. Actually, I was, but I was blowing it.
Yeah.
Dude, I was blowing it, trying to chase that tail, look cool, impress people. Was it your upbringing or you were just smarter than me?
No, my dad's first generation immigrant. And so he came here with a suitcase and nothing. And now he built his whole life off of just work ethic. And so like and we never spent money. You wouldn't know that I was raising money because we wouldn't use paper napkins at the dinner table because he's like, it's a waste of money. We didn't use paper towels because they were expensive. Like he's a plastic surgeon, but like he never stopped living that way. And so that translated over. Like the car that I had, I bought for $5,000 in cash. So I had no payment on it. I had no nothing. And I lived on $1,100 a month while I was a management consultant. And that's a really good paying job. And so I lived all in on that. And I lived in Baltimore, but all of my work was in DC or in Omaha, Nebraska at Stratcom. So I used to work space, cyber, and intelligence. Different life than now, but but anyways, during that contract work, I was paid well, and that's what I saved it. Well,
if anyone's listening, that's the first thing you guys got to figure out is how to save money and not spend it. Not like me, dude. When I started Lightspeed, I was pretty much broke. I had child support. I had car payments. I'd lived beyond my means as a salesperson and a sales manager. You know, I was making $300,000-$400,000 grand before I quit, but I'd spend it. So again, I was just broke at another level. Yeah. And when I first started my business, you know, it was hard to get going. So literally I had a 1-bedroom apartment. No, I had a 2-bedroom apartment. I didn't have much furniture. I needed a lot of shit, car payments, all this. Problem is when I started making 10,000 a month with Lightspeed, which took a while, I took 5 of it and hired somebody. Everyone's like, dude, what are you doing? And I didn't even think about it. I was building the company. I wasn't thinking about getting more dialed in. I wasn't thinking about new furniture. I wasn't thinking about a nicer car, getting caught up. I was thinking about building the business. And so when I look back, man, I basically did the same thing. I reinvested money and didn't worry about getting a nicer house. And that was the hardest thing I think most people had to figure out is, scaling their business by reinvesting and living low. And you were doing the same thing.
Leila and I have 1 car.
You still live low.
Yeah. We live on less than $9,000 a month.
Still?
Yeah.
Damn, dude.
Yeah. I know that may sound like a lot to the listeners, but for relative scale, that's less than 1% of what I take home every month.
Not only that, but dude, 9,000 a month, dude, is like, you ain't living high on the hog then.
I bought my house in cash. I know Uncle G said no, but I have no payments. I have no debt. Everything I own is in cash. And that's just like, I didn't want anxiety. So for me, I'm actually really security driven, ironically, as an entrepreneur. So like once I make the money, I never want to lose it. And so like, I've been broke and I did not enjoy it. And I don't want to be broke ever. And so that's how
folks, pay attention to what that lesson is. So you save 60 G's, you opened up a gym, you basically invested all your money and were willing to sleep on the floor for 9 months. Did you say?
Yeah.
9 months. Why didn't
you do a wrinkle to that will make that story a little better?
Go ahead.
I increased the revenue of the gym by $5,000 a month every single month for that period of time. And I still slept on the floor. So I was sleeping on the floor and I was taking home $25,000 a month.
Just because you like to be there?
I think there's a little bit, I think there's a certain degree of like definitely internal fucked upness of like enjoying the grit and the struggle and being like, I'm going to tell this fucking story. But I also really just like making money and seeing it go up in my bank account.
So you're like, it's like a scoreboard.
It's a game. Yeah. I got addicted. Like every time I think about, am I going to spend something? I would be like, I really want to make sure I go up this month. And so I'm like, I'd rather go up. And that's just like pretty much how it's always been. I mean, literally my wife right now, she's like, let's get a second car. And this has been like our discussion of the last probably 2 months. She's like, get a second car. I'm like, what do we need a second car for? And then she was like, the G-Wagon's really nice. And I'm like, I know it's nice. I'm like, why don't we just get let's just get a pickup for like 20 grand and then like not think about it. She's like, babe, when are you going to stop living like this? And I'm like, I don't know. But then I see Warren Buffett, I see Charlie Munger, living in $60,000 middle America households. And I'm like, I'm sure there's a balance point, but I think not them, but I lean more to that side than to the Lambo and all that. And the car I got for free.
I'm on the other side. It's almost like if you did have kids and they went to you and said, Dad, can I borrow $30? You'd say $20. What do you need $10 for? Yeah.
What can you work for free?
Dude, it's like you're the type of dude that just likes that scoreboard.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So it started making money. Yeah. And then when did it click and say, shit, I need to open up a chain? Or like, how did Gym Launch Secrets get going?
So I'll give you as short a story as I can. Basically, the plan was never to have one gym. So I went into this wanting to build America's next like huge fitness facility. And I wanted it to be based on transformations and results. And like, that's what I really wanted it to be about. And so the thing that I was able to do well was I was able to open up each facility at full capacity on the first day, except for the first one. So I went to this Facebook marketing conference and I learned how to run Facebook ads in 2013. And so it was a 2-day conference. It was an intensive. It was like, what was that?
What'd that cost you?
So it cost me $3,000 to go to this 2-day like intensive. And this was my first thing I ever bought in the information space. And the promise was if you were going to make $10,000 by the end of the weekend or you got your money back. And I was like, okay, like, sure. And I didn't have the whole gym cost me 50. I had 60. So 3 was like 3 of the 10 that was left. So like, it was a lot to me. And like, I'm cheap. So like, I was like, all right, like I got to figure this out. And after the weekend, I did not make $10,000, but I learned how to run Facebook ads and I got it. I was like, I see how this works. I can figure this out. And so I was able to run ads, and that's what allowed me to start filling up the facility quickly. And by month 9, that's actually when I had fully outsourced the facility. So at that point, I had all the trainers, the manager. It was running without me being there. And so at month 15, I was able to open up my second location. That cost me $250,000. And so I've been able to save up just about $200 at that point from the cash flow of the business to open up the second location. And then every 6 months after that, I opened up a new facility at full capacity. And so I opened up 6 locations over the next 3 years total. And then I started going to these internet marketing conferences and things like that. And I saw this guy, Russell Brunson, speak, and he wasn't allowed to pitch. So he just like talked about funnels and stuff. And I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. This is cool. And a year went by, I never did anything. And one night I was, this is during a different period of my life, I was drinking about half a bottle of Johnny Walker Black every day because I had nothing to do. I was bored out of my mind. Like all 6 of the gyms were running and I was at home and I had nothing to do. I would text them, be like, hey, you need anything? And they were like, I guess we need some like ink for the printer. And I'd go on Amazon, I'd buy anything else. They're like, no, like we're good. I was like, all right. And so I went and I saw he was like looking for inner circle members, whatever. And then I signed up for his coaching group for $25,000, which again was a ton for me at the time for still as a gym owner. Like I was asset rich, cash poor, because every time I had more money, I opened another facility. And that was like, basically I just stack, another facility, stack, another facility. And that's how I did it. But as soon as I showed up at the first thing there, he said, and the biggest thank you that I have to Russell in my whole life is that he broke a belief for me. And so that's why I think these progressions of skills first, I learned how to market and sell, and I learned how to operate and run a business. And then there were character traits that allowed me to do it more consistently. And then I, met Russell, and he's like, he said this, I'm not saying I, necessarily say anything bad, but he was like, you're too good to be a gym owner. He's like, you have a level 10 skill set and a level 2 opportunity. That's what he told me. And so it like hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was like, shit. And so I was like, but this guy makes more money than me. And so I will listen. And so I sold my gyms. I took his advice, and then I started launching gyms. So I started going to other facilities and filling them up to full capacity like I had done mine. So I would basically take a gym in 30 days from 0 to full, doing all the marketing and sales stuff. And I would keep all the upfront revenue, but I was flying out. And then eventually I scaled up to a sales team of 8 guys. And every month we'd launch 8 gyms, flying out to different cities, launching these gyms. And I keep all the upfront, and then they would get the members. So they'd get 200 free members. I'd get the first 6 weeks of cash, and then the rest was theirs. And that was kind of the trade-off. So there's no risk to them. I had all the risk, and that's why I got all the upfront. But then quickly I was like, this is not a very logistically scalable model. So at that point I was doing about $350 a month when I started launching the gyms. And I was like, you know what, there's a number of things that happened during the period of time that the model didn't work out. I didn't have any control of the fulfillment. So we could sell somebody, but the people who were coming to me were typically failing gym owners. So they didn't have good product. They weren't good. And so I would sell them, and then they would do a horrible job on fulfillment. And then I was the one who's carrying the risk of the processing transaction. And so we'd get refunds and chargebacks and all sorts of stuff. And I was like, it didn't feel right. It was close, but it was wrong. And so what ended up happening is I said, Leila, she was with me at the time. I said, why don't we just start selling online and forget the gyms? Like we'll sell weight loss. We'll just sell straight to consumers. And we said, cool. And so within 14 days, we're doing $1,000 a day. I was like, this is great. We'll take the 8 sales guys. We'll bring them in. It's going to be awesome. We'll do 8,000 a day. This could work. And so I had 8 more gyms that were supposed to launch the next month. They were supposed to. And so I called them up and I was like, hey, we're not, because I had to book these things out a couple months in advance. And so I called them up. I was like, hey, we're not going to be doing this thing anymore. We're going another direction. And the guys were like, listen, man, like I need this. I maxed out my credit cards. I'm up to my ears in debt. Like I need these clients, man. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like I'm not doing it anymore. And then finally I was like, you know what? I'll show you how to do it. I was like, but I'm not flying out there to save your ass if you can't sell. And they were like, no, that's fine. It's fine. And so they were like, well, how much? And at the time I picked the highest number that I could think of for selling something, which was $6,000. I was like $6,000. And I wanted him to say no. That's why I tried to pick a high number. I didn't want to do it. And he was like, okay. And I was like, you would have thought if you had looked at my face when that happened, I was like, holy shit. And I was like, okay. And then I called up the second guy who was supposed to launch for that next month. I had 8. Same conversation. He was like, how much? And I was like, $8,000. He was like, okay. And I was like, and I called the rest of the guys and I made $60,000 in that day. And I was like, holy shit. And so I looked at Leila and I was like, babe, we're not getting out of the gym industry. I was like, we were just doing it wrong. And so I think that's interesting because you can have the same skill set, but packaged in different opportunity vehicles can create massively different results. And so over the weekend, I built the whole training system and all that stuff. And then we launched it and all 8 of those guys made $40,000 in their first month using all of our systems. And then that was March of 17. And since then, we sold, now the program's 16,000 and we have a yearly kind of group that we continue to coach people and improve their businesses. That's 35,000 a year. And we now have 3,100 gyms that purchased that $16,000 program, across 14 countries, over 2,500 in the US alone. And so it's been a ride. And so that was kind of the impetus of gym launch skyrocketing. A year and a half later, I started a supplement company, Prestige Labs, because all the gyms, I sold supplements a ton at my gyms. And I never really had anything that worked well. I needed to do it as a good profit stream. But there was a ton of problems with how like the traditional model set up with like fronting the inventory and all that kind of stuff. And so we made a zero inventory model for the gyms with a POS that worked integrated into their back end to track to the trainer and everything. And so we launched that. First month, we did 1.7 million. And then that's pretty much stayed as a constant. That's another like $15 to $20 million a year revenue stream for me. That comes from the supplement company. We started meals this last December, which Brad was referencing. We started that again into the distribution base. It's just solving the next problems. And then in about a year and a half ago, we started building a software, which has been pretty much the thing that I focus at least half my time on, is building that out, because it's not just for gyms, it's for any vertical. And so that's now it did 580 last month, and it's 6 months of being around. So that's pretty exciting for us. That it just kind of just recently hit its hockey stick, and it's gaining a lot of traction because we spent so much time. Brad knows from other conversations how much time I've put into this thing. It is a data machine, and it is awesome. So I can talk more about throughput from click to close all the way through. But that's what it was built to do, is to optimize how many dollars a brick and mortar business gets off their marketing, and it's really good. So that's kind of the story.
Scalability of that, huh?
Was that?
You must love the scalability of SaaS model software.
It's crazy. It is incredibly. So to anybody who just knows Brad as Brad Lee, the guy you saw as the influencer, the guy on Instagram or whatever, like, running a SaaS business is the hardest type of business. You have the sharpest minds. It's the most competitive world. They're well capitalized. They're venture backed. You're fighting against the smartest dudes in the game, right? Like, the level of people who compete at an MLM versus a brick and mortar versus online marketing versus, like, you continue to go up in skill set. And I think the tip top of that, look at the biggest businesses in the world. They're all software-based businesses, biggest ones. They own the world. And so you have the smartest, brightest guys that you're competing against. And it's expensive. It takes time. You have to make really hard trade-offs and strategic decisions. It's been lots of fun because of the challenges, because it's a different level of game. But yeah, so I mean, I love the software side, because you also have something that you can show, right? Like, this is what you can show someone this, whereas, with information or coaching, things like that, it's a result that they're going to experience. Otherwise, you're just showing them videos, portal, etc. But with SaaS, you can show what you're doing, which I think is just very cool as an entrepreneur.
So if I'm a gym owner listening to this and I'm like shut down right now, how do you help a shut down gym right now?
So we 9 months ago or 10 months ago now, I took a really public stance that I got a lot of flack for, that I thought that there was going to be a recession coming, and that I thought that there was going to be an event of some sort. I definitely didn't guess it was going to be a flu, but I thought there was going to be some event that was going to pop the bubble around brick and mortar group training. And the signs were showing, at least for the brick and mortar gym models, because there were lots of the market had slowed down in its growth. profit margins were dropping, price was getting driven down towards the commoditized services, and guys are barely making it in the best economic times. And so I was like, as soon as they shake the tree, 30 of you guys are going out of business. And so the solution that I presented then is the same solution we have now, which is you need to pivot to having remote services, having one-on-one online services in addition to your in-person training. It's higher margin. It increases your scale. I believe it's more valuable because people value convenience and personalization more than anything. And that's not going to change. That's human beings. And so those are bets that I would be willing to make. And so we made those videos, and then I got lots of shit for them. And then COVID happened. Then I got less shit for making those videos. So that was nice. But our guys we'd already built out the entire system. And so overnight we pivoted our whole community. And so our whole community is selling just as much, if not more now, online than they were in person. And a lot of our guys are just contemplating whether or not they even want to go back because they make more money. They're making
What's their brick and mortar doing? Nothing?
Oh yeah. No, I mean, they're closed. They can't do it. I mean, there's nothing you can't. I mean, some of them were, a lot of them were able to transition their in-person clients to remote, but on top of that, they sell remote services for people that aren't currently customers.
Couldn't if you're a gym out there and you're closed, can't you figure out a way to become an essential facility? Like, for example, doctors are essential. So bring a doctor in and consider the workout medically based. Wouldn't that work?
You might. I wouldn't say that it wouldn't, like that it wouldn't work. For me, I had to think of what is something that they can all do tomorrow to generate cash flow. And so converting their existing customers into remote clients, most of them are able to keep 90% of their clients.
Really? And when you say remote, like I'm going to log in the morning, do a Zoom and work out of my house? No,
so that's the way the majority of the market is doing it. I'm not saying that the majority of the market's doing a good job. Our guys are doing a good job. And so,
but is that what you mean? I'm gonna log in and do fitness, watching you and listening to you from home?
No, I mean, that could be a component of it. But the big difference between, so big picture, if you're in the gym, I'll take 90 seconds on gyms. If you're in the gym industry, you're not going to beat Beachbody at having online workouts. They've been doing it for 20 years. They're better than you at it. All right. They're huge. They're well capitalized. They can beat you at it, and they're cheaper.
I almost closed those pricks on Lightspeed about 8 years ago.
Close them. Hey, Carl, if you're listening, you should use Lightspeed.
I think Carl. Carl was in the room. I almost closed them, but I think they ended up trying to copy it. Well, just build their own, not copy it. But at the end of the day, I almost closed those pricks, dude. That would have been a good one. Damn it, Carl.
So you're not going to compete with them there, right? In the same degree, you're not going to compete with like free workout diet plans, right? Like you can Google them and get them for free. So all that stuff's free already. So what competitive advantage can a service-based facility offer that no one else can? Accountability is making sure you do the shit that you're supposed to do. It's not the thing that you're doing that's the value. It's the making sure that you do it that's the value. And so we sell the accountability portion as the primary piece. Now we have the software behind that. That one I didn't build. We just private labeled something and then custom built a bunch of stuff into it. That was all of our systems and our messaging so that we could give people hey, you just had your first workout. How was it? Hey, what can I change? And so instead of having group workouts, they're actually individualized workouts for the person. And so think about it, instead of, hey, I was paying $150 a month for in-person, why would I pay $150 a month for remote? Instead, it's, I was paying $150 a month for group, and now I'm paying $150 a month for one-on-one. And that's the key differentiator, is that now we're selling one-on-one service, but it's much more scalable because you're selling in a remote setting. Does that make sense?
Listen up, folks. If you got a gym or what about personal trainers?
They're in the exact same boat. You're going to have to sell accountability. You're going to have to sell one-on-one. And that's where you're going to be able to still get $200, $300 a month all day long from Gen Pop for that level of service. In fact, a lot of people actually prefer the one-on-one convenience of being able to have workouts catered to them, nutrition plan catered to them, and someone who's checking in on them every day to make sure they're actually doing it and tracking their progress. No gyms are doing that in group training, and that's why it's more valuable.
What about leasing out your equipment? Like to me, there's a gym by my house. I would run down there. It was Fitness 19. They're closed. Like I didn't know the owner, but man, I'm telling you, I was like going, shit, dude, I wish I had that piece of equipment at my house real quick. Like I'd have kept paying, and I'd have gave them $100 a month just to say, hey, let me use that for a while. Like, you're not using this son of a bitch. Bring it to my house. I'll give you $100 a month to use those pieces of equipment.
Yeah, there are definitely a bunch of gyms that did that. Again, when I come up with solutions for our community, I have to think what's the lowest hanging fruit that everyone can execute without a lot of operational drag, and that's gonna feed them.
All right, now let's take a little abrupt turn, only because I know you like data from talking to you offline. Like, dude, you get freaking excited about data.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you call it data or data, but at the same time, you like numbers. So here's my question.
Uh-huh.
What the hell is going on with this COVID shit, dude? Is it are you in LA? Are you in California?
No, I'm in Austin. I'm in Texas.
Oh, thank God. Dude, I'm telling you, like Washington, the state of Washington, California, there's certain states that are just like they're just stupid, but the whole country's stupid. What do you think's happening?
I really liked that you framed this question with data, because that's how I talk about it. I think this is like what's happening right now is a perfect example of having people interpreting data differently, right? The quality of the data. Because ultimately, if everyone believed that the data, like in this extrapolates to business decisions, this extrapolates to how you run companies, all of this, why people who have the same values, most people in this country have the same value, why would they, if presented with the same data, make different decisions, right? And so right now, the question, the thing that's being brought into question is the validity of the data. Are these deaths really COVID, right? Like, or are there alternative incentives at bay? Right now, hospitals are going out of business. Doctors are getting furloughed because there's no one who's going to hospitals. So the idea that they're overrun massive, like across the country, is pretty much a fallacy. Like that, I think if you talk to doctors, like my neighbors in the ER doc, like you talk to them, like they're empty, right? And so then you have the economic incentive for them, which is that you get $13,000 for every person who's COVID. Well, shit. If I have no more revenue and every death that I have has the potential, now, in order for you to, this is my understanding.
Isn't that fraud? That's fraud.
Right. In order for you to denote someone as COVID, they don't need to be tested positive. They just need to show symptoms of COVID, which could be a cough or signs of weakness. Now, I don't know about you, but most people before they die, who does not cough or show a sign of weakness?
Oh, yeah.
So you're putting good intentioned people, and then you're creating a situation where it would make almost logical sense economically, where you're being permitted to get funding where you can no longer generate revenue by marking something, because you made the requirements for that. You must mark anyone who shows these symptoms. Now, we've seen the dramatic decrease in pneumonia deaths and tuberculosis deaths and heart disease deaths. But I looked at the deaths from last year. So I did dive a little bit into this. And mind you, just for everybody, I've never voted. I don't care. But I just like to look at like what is, right? And so if you look at the deaths from last year, same time, to deaths this year, the same time, from a statistics standpoint, they're the same. And so the same amount of people are dying right now as were last year. And so
just from COVID now.
Right. But I'm like forgetting how we're coloring it. The total deaths, because you'd think if there was a pandemic that was murdering people everywhere, right, that there would be an increase in deaths. That would be natural, right? An increase of people would be dying if there's something that's worth shutting the whole country down. But we're not seeing the same total number of people are dying. Now, whether we're allocating it to COVID or not is less I'm not there. I'm not the one checking the boxes, right?
Well, we are doing that. And you already hit it. It's because they get paid. Now, my question is, if they said no more money for COVID, we don't care if they're COVID or flu, no more money for COVID.
Now, Alex, you wrote 100 million offers.
Yes.
And a series.
Yes.
Yeah. And ultimately your found fame, you're and Leila's both, because everyone's heard your story that knows you. But for those that don't maybe know you, that are listening to this, you guys were broke, found each other, and built a fucking $150 million portfolio. Yee! And how old are you?
32.
And he's only 32. How old are you?
29.
29. Smarter than a fucking, I don't even want to cuss because I want this to be shared. Smarter than a whip. Both of them. They know business. It's unbelievable. If you guys ain't following their content, I'm telling you, you better. And also acquisition.com. And I'm just going to spill them out here just in case someone shuts this off real quick. Acquisition.com. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You're basically saying, hey, if you're making 3 to 10 million or more and you want to scale that bitch, call us.
That's exactly
Correct.
what it is.
And then you'll either invest, buy a piece, buy the whole thing. You'll do a bunch of shit. Like you're just getting deal flow like it's going out of style, aren't you?
It's been going really well. Yeah, we actually just do minority partnerships right now. So we're always minority stakes in the companies. We don't take majority, at least for the next, few years.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys just go in there and show them how to do it?
It's a lot of, it's mostly like nose in, hands off on most areas. And then the area that we involve ourselves in the most is recruiting. So we actually do a lot of the recruiting for their leadership in-house, just because we've seen that's like probably where most people kind of go wrong. But the rest of it's, we kind of do like the overall company strategy. Then we go and, he does his pricing and packaging. I do the org review and organizational design. Then we dive into functionals like sales, marketing, finance. So we try to do the whole thing. It's just a matter of like, we plan it out over the next 3 years, basically. So we're like, we get the business and we're like, how are we going to triple this business in 3 years? And we lay out the plan for that. And then we give it to them on the first day that we kind of kick off with them. And we're like, this is what we're going to do.
Okay. So now how did you guys go from broke in love to rich and genius?
The short story was we met on Bumble. I met Leila on our first date after she tried not to go on the first date with me. Within, pretty quickly, I just realized I really liked her. We talked for 4 hours just about business, didn't talk about anything that was not business and money related. And I was like, man, this bitch is interesting. And so we ended up just hanging out every day after that. And I was like, hey, I'm going to start this gym launch thing. So I had 6 gyms at the time, or five gyms at the time. And I was like, I'm gonna start this thing where I like fly out to gyms, do these turnarounds. I think there's like some money to be made there. And she was like, all right, cool. So, but
Now what were you doing at this point?
I was in person and online personal training. So I had like basically built up a big roster at like a 24-hour.
You were getting people in shape.
Yeah. It was just like super
Is that how you all knew each
transactional.
other?
yeah, not that we met through Bumble, the dating app.
Oh yeah,
but, like,
Bumble.
she looked fit on her thing and I was into fitness. And so it made sense.
Living in the same town or no?
Yeah, close
Yeah.
enough.
Newport Beach.
All right. So you met on Bumble and then you were online training and
Yeah, I was doing online in person and I was kind of trying to figure it out because I knew that I wanted to either own a gym next or make an online training business. And I had 2 people kind of, proposing partnerships-ish on each side. And then I met Alex and I told him that I think like the second date or something. And he was like, you should not do either of those. He was like, you'll make way more money if you do something with me. And I was like, dude, I don't even know you.
Not untrue.
And he was like, I know. He's like, but even if this didn't work out, romantically, he's like, I really think we could make a ton of money together. Yeah. And I was super career oriented at that time. So I was like, shit, I'm like 23. What do I have to lose if it doesn't work out?
So he recruited you basically.
100%.
Yeah.
And see, how did you know to recruit her? What was she displaying?
So she was number 1 sales rep for all of Orange County at 24 Hour, which is the biggest chain, in California. So the fact that she was 23 and she was the number 1 sales rep, I was like, all right, if she can sell, then we can make money together. Because I already knew the marketing side. So I was like, I just need people who can close because if I can get all the leads we need. And so that was how I knew that she was good. But then everything else she was talking about, I could tell that she was either interested or really knew the things that she was talking about. And I didn't have anybody to help me with gym launch, which was going to be the new company. And so I pitched her on the idea and she said no.
And just for the listeners, gym launch would basically do what?
So gym launch for the first just under 2 years was a turnaround business. So we used to fly out to gyms in person. I'd turn on the marketing and then we'd sit at the front desk and fill the gym up with sales and usually in under 30 days. So
now, would the owners just shit themselves?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they don't know how to do this.
Right.
That's what we didn't know though. So we're like, this is amazing. We're giving you so many clients. And then they would call and be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
It's dropping bombs.
Why would they be mad?
They would get mad because typically if somebody's coming to you because they're struggling, it's because they usually don't have a very good product, very good team to begin with. And so we then just turn a 10 out of 10 marketing solution onto a mediocre-ish product and blow way more capacity. So let's say you have a CrossFit gym that's got 70 members. 30 days later, they have 270 members. So we just tripled how many people, or quadrupled how many people they were handling in 30 days. So they didn't have the time to build the infrastructure, the team, any of that stuff. And so we just blew the roof off the things. And, for us, since we were incentivized just on upfront cash, we were just like, we tried to sell as many people as we possibly could in that period of time. But for them, at some point, they were like, "Hey, man, stop selling." So I'm like, "Dude, I got to cover hotel. I got to cover airfare. Like, we're going to keep selling through the entire 30 days that we said." And so that started to create some sort of contention there. And then also the average
You're
gym owner,
selling too much.
yeah,
Dude, it was
yeah, and the average gym owner would make $30,000 a year on average. That's what they take home. And so they'd see these kids, 23 and 26, flying in and ripping $100,000 out of their gym in 30 days. And they're like, "Fuck these people." And so that was like part of the issue earlier on.
Yeah, it was bad. Like there was one time
I don't know why though. See, I'm in the rev share game, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of small-minded thinkers out there. I don't want to rev share with him. Why would you rather make $1 million on your own than $3 million with me? Just so you don't have to give me any.
I think
Sounds
that's
like
what keeps you small.
it
You know?
sounds like the
100%.
gym business was the same way. They were getting pissed because they're watching two kids rip 100 G's out of their facility. Plus, they're probably watching what you were doing, and they think, "Oh, I can do it myself now."
Semi.
Yeah. They
So
did
did you develop this marketing plan
Mhm.
with your own?
with my gyms?
and
Yeah.
it worked there. So
Yeah.
what was the plan?
So we'd run free offers on the front end, usually free challenges, and then people would come in, and then we'd sell them a version of a paid program, and then 2 days later they'd come in and we'd sell them $200 or $300 in supplements, and so we'd make $600 to $900 in the first 30 days for a new client, and that was our deal. So we kept the upfront cash for the first program they'd sign up for, and then everything they did after that was the gym. So that was kind of the split. We keep the upfront cash, and then if they convert into members, you get everything else.
Which is funny because all the upfront is the cash. After that, it's $9 a month.
Well, the
Yeah.
gyms that we were working with are like $200 a month. So
Oh.
for them,
Yeah.
it was because they were
Cheap.
service
But still,
facilities.
you tripled their business.
Yeah.
How can anyone be pissed at that?
Most of them were all
If
pissed.
you guys said to me right now, Brad, I'll take Lightspeed and triple its business, but I want a upfront chunk or whatever
Yeah.
it is, I'd be like, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't anyone do that?
I think it's a lot of them are small for reasons. And
Yeah.
then they also, it's like they don't have the skills to retain the clients. So it's like until you've had to acquire 200 clients on your own, you haven't given yourself the time to acquire the skills of how to service those clients. So we brought them all in. And like there was one time where I was in a gym in Hawaii, which I'm pretty sure he forbid me from coming back to the gym. And I sold like 260 people in 30 days. And I was like doing pitches. Like there'd be 10 people in a room because Hawaii, everyone brings their friends. They're like, I would like have an appointment with 2 people. And then I was like, dude, why are there 11 people in here? They're like, well, I brought my family. Like it sounds like an amazing deal. And I was like, this is insane. So I'd be doing like,
You sell them all?
oh yeah, it was amazing.
100%.
It was-
500, 500, 500.
It was
500.
insane. But like they came in one day, I'll never forget, like this trainer, I don't know, her name was like Stacy or something. Probably shouldn't say it. And she walked in and she was like, you need to effing stop. And I was like, why? She's like, I don't want to service anyone else in this gym. And I had all these people sitting there and I was like, Stacy, you need, leave. And then she left and I was like, don't listen to Stacy. She's a little stressed right now. It's like, we're gonna change your life. But like, it was crazy. I mean, yeah. And I mean, that's why we ended up switching the model. We were like, we can't keep selling people into the gyms. We have to teach people how to do this for themselves and then teach them all the other skills to retain the clients.
Yeah. So, because at the end of the day, like some of the members were, their lives were improving. Some of the gym owners, their lives were improving, but there was a lot of like inefficiency. Like there's tons of people who were signing up for weight loss challenges and had a terrible experience at the gym. And there were tons of gym owners who had bad experiences with us because we just blew the roof off the place. Like it was beyond what would have been helpful. And then they had to deal with like all the negativity of like having overfilled classes and you can't accommodate the people and all that kind of stuff. And so that's when we switched to teaching people how to do it. And then that way they could throttle the volume based on whatever they wanted to do. And so that's when we switched from in-person turnaround business to the licensing model. And that's when everything like really, really took off because we could only do, at our peak, we were doing 8 facilities a month. So we had, 8 sales guys, they'd fly out and they'd do the same model for each of these gyms. That was the peak. And that was like maybe $300,000 a month. But once we switched to the licensing, within 6 months, we were doing, $2 million a month. And it was just a different game.
And when that dough started rolling in, you didn't run out and get cars and a bunch of sexy houses. You guys just stayed like in a 1-bedroom apartment with a Volkswagen or some shit.
Yeah, Mosey Mobile.
Yeah.
We had our
My
dented
Prius.
Prius with a crack in the windshield. And we pulled up to our mastermind and someone was like, I thought you guys were supposed to be successful.
It was just like, we're so young and we were terrified.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even want to touch the money. You know what happened is we literally got to a point where the guy from Chase called us and he was like, Leila. And I was like, what? He's like, there's $9 million in your checking account for your business. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. Just leave it there. And he's like, I can't leave it here. It's not good to keep this in here. You need to take it out and put it in a different account. And I was like, where do I put it? Like we were so terrified. We're like, didn't know what to do with the money, didn't know how to move the money, didn't know what to do to invest it.
Shit,
Like,
you should have called me.
To Leila's point, like it looks like frugality now, but it was mostly fear. You know what I mean? It was just we just didn't want to mess anything up, and we did. And you know, when we started Gym Launch and it started blowing up, I just told Leila, I was like, I think we got 18 months. I was like, I don't know how long this is going to last. Like we might saturate every market really fast, and then it's going to disappear. That ended up not being the case, but like I was 100% hell bent on like we got a year and a half, so we're gonna not spend anything, and we're gonna just plow all the cash into our bank account so that we can hopefully like have breathing room.
yeah, and that was what a lot of like mentors told us early on. You know, we got invited to this mastermind where it was all people doing 8 figures, and we had just started making like 300 grand from the 2 of us with an EA from like our kitchen table.
Yeah.
And we went there, and they were basically like, dude, when it feels this easy, you need to hit the gas because all the dudes who are bigger than you, they're gonna see what you're doing, and they're gonna take your shit. And we were like, dude, we don't want that. Like, this is finally starting to work. And so we just went all in, like absolute, just 10 out of 10 work mode.
Yeah, and we didn't. I mean, we actually after we went to that meeting, we sat down and basically wrote down all the things that we were willing to give up. So we're like, we're not drinking anymore. We're not seeing friends anymore. We're not going out anymore. We're not doing vacations. We're not doing weekends. I was like, that was it. And so basically from then until, and that was.
Did you like that plan?
Yeah. I
So you're
was the
both
same
on
way.
the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it might have been difficult. It may have been a different story had
for
when
sure.
you not been on that page.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of, you know, it's not common, I think, for either person to just be like, let's sacrifice everything to do this. But I think when we both met, we were both at that point where we just really wanted to succeed at something.
Yeah.
And so it worked.
Yeah. We were both willing to take short-term sacrifice for an extended period. So it was about 3 years, 2.5, 3 years that we didn't drink, we didn't go out, we really didn't see friends. Ryan Moran from capitalism.com, he jokes about it because he like met us in Austin because somebody connected us, and he's like, hey, so when do you guys want to hang out? And we're like, we don't really do that. He was like, what? I was like, yeah, just I appreciate you sound awesome, but like we're just really doing what we're doing right now. And I texted him like 18 months later. I was like, hey man, Leila and I have decided that we are seeing friends now. So if you'd like to have dinner, I'm open. He was like, this is the weirdest text I've ever seen.
That's what I mean by you guys. Like you guys are like freaking almost robotic. In when it comes to like intelligence and logic, I would say that you guys got the majority of it when it was doled out.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true, but maybe Alex more than me.
Yeah, because you figured it out for yourselves, but then you went and figured it out for a bunch of other people. Now you're basically getting equity in companies to basically go in and fix companies.
I just don't, you know, it's funny though, because like we were talking about this the other day, I'm like, business is not that hard. Being like a rocket scientist or like a biochemist, like that shit is hard, but business is like
listen. Okay, well then help me out here, okay? Because I'm pretty good at business, I think, as far as the vision goes, meaning if we did this, we'd make zillions, but then I can't get that to happen. Yeah. So how do you get the people to execute? Like you said, you have this guy or that guy. Yeah. I try to get people and I say, hey, let's do this. And then I just can't seem to get it there. Like sometimes I say, we need a new website. Like our website needs to say this and do this. And, you know, 2 years goes by, there's still no website that does that. And I'm like, what do I do? How do you execute?
Well, the reason that, so there's like the strategy, right? You have the vision of like, okay, if we're trying to maximize enterprise value, if we just do these 2 things, we can 10x the value of the business. So everyone in agreement with that. Cool. So we get agreement on that big picture thing. And then usually there's skill sets missing on the team. And so that's why the only thing that we really do in-house is we recruit because.
Well, can you let me pay you to recruit?
We don't do it for pay because like we
know, but like you know me, yeah. I'm special.
It's like because
you guys, I'm special. You want someone to be able to hang out with you, right?
Always.
Like when you guys got that kind of loot, pretty soon you're going to be just like, you know, where you at? Oh, we're in Greece. What about your businesses?
We just love.
We're running it from Greece. You guys never been to Greece?
We haven't.
You
don't travel either?
Not much. No, we travel stuff in the U.S. Yeah, we're doing more speaking stuff. Yeah,
I'm going to give you guys a nickname: the Lady and the Lumberjack.
Oh my God, it's going to be the podcast title now.
The Lady and the Lumberjack. You guys are just like down to earth as it gets. It just blows my mind. Like you bought a Bentley because I said, come on, spend some money. Then you bought it and you're like, this ain't fucking. It doesn't pay off. Or what'd you say?
It's not my speed. It's not my vibe.
Yeah, but the
return.
ROI or some shit. Like I heard your story.
Well, yeah,
like,
I just don't get. Yeah, I don't like the marginal return on like the money spent there. I just don't get the same amount if I were to just spend it.
You don't like
else.
to go and sit in a badass car?
Not really. Now, like the gym equipment that I have, I spend a lot of money on that. I would say like I spend like $150,000 on a home gym. Like that's a lot of money.
You know Andy Frisella?
Yeah.
Good dude. Go check out his freaking home gym. Go check out his headquarters.
We're
I think we're
going
going
there
in
next
like
week.
5
Dude.
days.
Yeah, 5 days.
Dude, it's the dumbest shit ever. You guys are going to be fast friends.
Oh,
Number
I
one,
can't wait.
Emily's cool as shit. She's like the new Martha
We've
Stewart.
heard they're awesome.
Everyone's told me that. They're like, you and Emily need to meet.
Yeah, and
So-
Andy's like the real deal. When you
Yeah.
like if he takes you to his home and let you see like under the hood,
Yeah.
that dude's got some kick ass shit. Like I had no idea the first form was as big as it actually
Oh, yeah.
is.
It's enormous.
It's super big. Yeah.
Or the influence that Andy actually has.
Yeah, he does
yeah.
a lot. The thing, it's like for Andy though, like he loves cars, and I feel like that's like real for him. And so like if we were to get a car like a Bentley or something, it wouldn't be for us. It would be like to look a certain way because we don't. It's not. It's not.
You
something
don't
we find
like
cool.
leather?
I mean, there's leather Teslas. You know what I mean?
I
There's
don't-
leather.
Neither of us have cared about
What are
cars
you
like
guys driving right now?
Tesla.
Yeah,
Is it the Plaid or
No,
the
I got like a used
it's the base model.
used base model? The ROI on the upgraded level didn't really make sense. It's
No.
an input output kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, no, I like nice clothes and like bags
She
and
does that.
shoes and stuff. So like
Yeah.
we don't. It's not like I like that stuff. I've always liked stuff like that. So like I don't
So you
not spend
splurge
money.
on clothes.
She spends money on clothes.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You don't spend
I spend
money.
money on domains. I like domains.
How
I'm a
many do you
domain
have?
collector.
Oh my
A
God.
lot.
I have hundreds and hundreds
Oh,
of
yeah.
domains. I think it's like digital real estate.
Oh yeah, I mean I like it, and it's also I mean like you get a brand and it's easy to remember because like it's funny because one of the guys in the building is a tech guy and he was looking up the stuff for Acquisition.com. He was like, dude, 80% of your traffic is from hand keyed in people. So people like type in Acquisition.com. He's like, that's insane. He's like, no one types in URLs anymore. And I was like, well, if it's easy to remember, maybe I didn't know that when we got it, but I was like, oh, okay, well that's neat. Good to know. And so I think sometimes there is like real ROI on an easier, simpler, shorter domain that people can
Or
understand.
longer.
Yeah. Maybe.
Think about phrases.
Yeah.
Like-
so
like-
easy to remember.
Dude, I own Get That Motherfucker on the Phone. I'm serious.
I believe it.
Get That Motherfucker on the Phone.com. Like that could be something.
Kills
someday.
it.
Oh my God.
I've also got You Better Know His Name.com. You better know his name because
What business is
one
that?
time I started looking about the name of Jesus and that's not his name.
Uh,
And so like you better know his
there you go.
name.com.
Mhm.
But I just keep them. Why not? I got nightmareemployees.com.
What?
Well, dude, I wanted to start like a freaking Yelp or a Green
Like a
Door or
blog.
whatever for
Wow.
fucking business owners because this Glassdoor shit. You should go read my Glassdoor reviews, by the way, because
I
I
get it.
comment on all of them. It's hilarious. But it's
I don't
just
doubt
I think there's some nightmare employees, and I think other employers would benefit from knowing. Alex Hormozi is a piece of shit. He fucking sued the last 3 companies he worked for. He's always got some sort of illness. He's so
Oh, that's
good.
great. Yeah.
Right? So
I
now
know.
you go to apply for a job, and guess what? There's a credit rating on your ass from employers.
They run the Carfax.
They run the Carfax on the employee. It's called nightmareemployees.com.
Some businesses just
Anybody
expect
want to
those
launch that? Hey, you want to acquire that one?
It's doing $3 million or more.
See, but I already think I figured you two out with the acquisition thing. So it's just deal flow. And all the deal flow comes in. You guys just look. Can we do something with these guys?
Mhm.
Yeah, we could probably quadruple that shit. All right, let's make a deal. Can we do something with these guys?
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Well, I would say actually the only thing is like there's a ton of businesses that are like really appealing, but then you meet the founder or the CEO and you're like, dude.
Is that what happened with Lightspeed? You guys are like, hey, dude, he ain't coachable. That dude ain't coachable. He'll blow all the money. But see,
I mean,
I'm-
bigger companies are harder.
But I'm also different. I'm a different animal. I'd give you the whole shebang. I'd say, freaking, hey, I won't be spending any money.
I feel like I'm getting
I'll go
sold.
home.
You
I'll
came
go-
here to get sold.
No, I'll go home and just look at my watch for 3 months. Because when you guys walked in here, if you could execute even half the shit I need executed, this place would be worth hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. Like, it's unbelievable what this place could do.
The untapped potential.
Unbelievable. And if you guys walked in here, you'd be like, well, they're not marketing. Oh, well, let's start that. Bam! And all of a sudden I'll be like, holy shit, how'd you do that? You marketed. How important do you think marketing is? If a small business is running $500,000 a month and they want to triple it, would marketing have something to do with it?
Depends. So if you think about like a car, like how important is the wheel to the car? How important is the engine to the car? Like they all have to be there in order for the car to run. And so, but from that is a whole system has to work together. From a business perspective, I think that there's sequence of importance. So like when you're at zero, you got to sell something to someone, period. Like that's how you have to make money. Once you get to like usually 250,000 a month ish, 200 to 400, 500 is usually at that point, they've learned some level of marketing to get there. And they think that they should market more to get to the next level. And oftentimes that's not the case. Yeah. And that's
Explain.
I mean, most of the times when they come in, they think they need more marketing. And that's why I think they're attracted to us, because it's Acquisition.com and Alex is known for being great with marketing and acquisition and pricing and offers. But they come in, and the reason that they're not getting to where they want to go is the lifetime value of those customers is so low, because they have the marketing in place, but they have literally terrible fulfillment. They don't have a back end. Their team is not experienced. And so what's the point in pushing more through a leaky bucket?
Yeah.
And so we fix the bucket first, and then we'll blow the marketing through. And that's worked really well for our companies thus far. I mean, they're all...
How do you fix leaky bucket? How long would it take you to fix a bucket?
It depends on the nature of the leak or leaks.
How long does it take you to assess the leaks in the bucket?
That doesn't take that long.
That doesn't take that long.
How
maybe
long?
a few weeks. Maybe 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then you got the leaky bucket down, and now you just fill it.
Fix it. Yeah, and that takes longer because a lot of the times, I mean, with companies that are between 3 and 10, it's not nearly as hard. And that's why we like that size, because you're basically putting things in place that don't exist. If I take a company like yours, or a company that's doing between 20 and 50 million, they have leaky buckets that have been there for years. And so it's ingrained habits with the whole team.
Yeah,
and there's usually...
But what if you had unbridled authority?
I'd kill myself. I mean, we don't run the companies.
Yeah.
I know. You guys are just advising.
Yeah.
Plus
and you're collecting equity left and right. Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
Like in 10 years, you guys will probably be the first. Well, there's a trillionaire now, isn't there?
I don't know.
You guys might be the world's
Saudi
first.
family.
You guys might be the world's first trillionaires.
I don't know about that.
And what's funny is you'll have it all in the bank.
Yeah, just sitting there, we'll just stare at it.
Yeah.
I'll be like, you
driving
got a
our
car
Tesla?
yet? You'll be like, nope, still got my old truck.
Yeah.
That Tesla's still cranking.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys make it look easy, sound easy. It pisses me off a little bit because, like, I'm sitting on $1 billion deal and I can't get freaking a website designed.
I think you just need
I
an
need
executor.
I need a recruiter.
Yeah.
Well, you need
people.
the one person next to you who does everything for you. Like, you need your you're like,
Well, can you recruit me one?
I mean, no, but yes, in theory, you can recruit one. But I mean, that's what most people are missing is like, you've got someone like yourself or someone like Alex, who's like this amazing visionary, someone who's got all these great ideas, but like, you just don't have that one person that could be your go-to, who's the filter for the rest of the company that's going to make it all happen. And that's what most people are lacking. And a lot of people have somebody there, but they're resentful of the fact that you don't do as much, right? Because in their mind, like, oh, you're all thinking all day, doing podcasts and bullshit. Like, see a lot of that. Or they don't have the ability to execute because they have no ability to influence the rest of the team. They get someone who's really good at systems and processes and SOPs, but they're not a leader. And so they can't lead a team. And they can't even recruit higher level talent that you need because they themselves are not high enough level talent. Yeah. And so it's like, that's often the bottleneck for a company like yours, or a lot of the ones that come in, is they just don't have that person and they underestimate the importance of it.
Yeah.
Because like, how good I am is going to dictate how much we can bring his vision to life.
So let's pretend you guys took over today. Let's pretend you took over Lightspeed today. What would be the first hood you want to look under?
We'd probably simplify. Well, we look at all past sales. We look at we look at the offer suite. That's typically the first place that I want to say is a mess, but is one of the easiest, biggest levers that we can pull in the business. So let's look at all the customers we've bought. Let's look at the price points and the packages that were sold to them. Can we bucket these into 2 to 3 things that really make up the bulk of the purchases? And then what are the gross margins associated with those things? And so it's like, okay, well, we've got this product over here that has tons of margin. A lot of people are buying, but like, we're not really pushing it very much. Like, that's underutilized. And we've got this other thing that's this big service heavy, customizable thing. We're like, well, screw that. That has terrible margins and it's hard to find customers for that. So we configure it usually into a much simpler product suite, which makes it easier for the sales guy to sell, makes it easier for the marketing team to message around. And then operationally, it makes it easier for the business to scale, because if we only have a few things we have to do, it's easier to do a few things with a lot of volume than lots of things with lots of volume. And so we'll fix that part usually first. And that's usually like the lightest, easiest thing we can do. And then we look at the experience around the products, which is usually more of the back end, which is like customer success, customer experience. What do we do? Like if there's a recurring element, how do we reduce churn? Are there activation points that we can start measuring? Can we decrease time to value, which is a huge one? A lot of times, like a simple example is like weight loss, because everybody understands that. If you have a weight loss program, if you can help someone lose like 10 pounds in the first 14 days, the likelihood that they'll actually stick with it for the long haul is much higher because of the emotional victory. Then they think, oh, this actually works. Even if you change the strategy from the first 14 days to the rest of the time, you say, listen, I showed you that I know what I'm doing. Now we need to go into the slow gradual phase. You're good. You're in good hands. And so it's kind of the same thing with like business stuff. It's like if we can compress the time to value, then people buy into the process of whatever our solution is. And then you get way longer stick rates. They feel like they can justify the price more easily. They don't get cold feet, blah, 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 blah. And so that's usually when we start fixing these things back to front. And usually when we think in terms of tripling companies, we think in 2 triples. So most of the time we can triple the company without actually increasing the marketing for the first triple. Just because I'll give you a different example. So we have 2 businesses that are in the same industry within our portfolio. And the cost of acquisition, and I happen to know a lot about the industry that they're in, the cost of acquisition is within a very narrow range between all companies in that space. But the difference between the massive companies and the small companies is not their cost of acquisition. That's what everyone focuses on. They're like, I got to get better ads. We got to increase our closing percentage. And sure, you should. But those are incremental things. But we can triple or 5x the value of the customer. Then all of a sudden, we can start marketing on 20 channels. We can 10x our ad spend because our return is there now. Whereas most guys they'll have bigger margins in the beginning, they'll increase their ad spend, and then they'll get to this point where they're doing more revenue, but their margins get compressed because the thing that they're selling, they haven't fixed the back end yet. And then that's what ends up hitting their cap, and then they stay there. And that's usually a lot of times when we end up working with companies.
So how did you guys learn it though? Just by doing it?
I think so. I mean, we've done it together, Jim launched Prestige, Alan, and now Acquisition.com. And then we started working, 2 years ago with a handful of companies to see if we could do it with other people's companies, and then we were able to outsource Jim Launch and Prestige and Alan. We got those to the point where they could sell, which meant that we had to get people to be leaders, and we turned into the board. So we've gone through the full cycle enough times. It's like, you see the patterns. That's all it is. Experience is pattern recognition. So it's just recognizing the patterns that have happened each time, being like, I see, like that's a thing in every company, not just mine.
Another one of those.
Yeah.
You guys should start a consulting firm.
No. We like doing it because it's cool, because this way it's like we're long-term partners with these companies, and transparently, if we take something from essentially having no value, because a lot of times a $3 million top line business maybe makes $1 million in profit, and a very heavily involved founder with very little support, which is pretty common. I mean, that's the smallest type company, but just as an example, like there's not a lot of enterprise value there. Like no one's going to actually buy 100% of that company if the founder walks. Like it doesn't make sense. And so
unless there's systems and processes,
then there still have to be some talent on the team to run that playbook. You know what I mean?
Not a lot of people want to buy like an empty warehouse, essentially.
Yeah. And so we know that we're going to take something from close to zero in value, even if it's $2 million, whatever, close to zero in value. And then we know that in 3 to 5 years, this thing's worth 50. Like there's no consulting fee that makes sense. You know what I mean? It just doesn't, like, that's why that model doesn't work for what we're doing. I mean, people could do it. It's just not what we would want to do.
We don't like the transactional nature of consulting.
Yeah, like project based.
Like, people are like, can I pay you for an hour? I'm like,
no.
It just feels gross.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it for people who like it. I don't know.
Well, again, fortunately, you don't have to make your living that way.
Right.
Right. It's almost like the takeaway close.
Yeah.
Like you not willing to do it, it makes more people even want you to do it.
Maybe.
Like there's people listening to the show right now going, I'll get him to do it. I'll offer him $1 million.
Nothing.
But what they don't understand is you guys have, I would say, 9 figures sitting around, and you ain't spending it much. You're investing it, all of it, right? What is your goal with that?
Well, I have short-term goals.
Alex has more money goals than me, so.
Yeah, I have more money goals than Leila does. I want to get Leila on the self-made women's list on Forbes. So I think it's the top 50 self-made women to the bottom, and that's 250. So I just want to hit that one. That'll be the first one, and then maybe I can slowly work my way
Slide up in there
to the men's list.
It's a lot harder to get.
What is? Do you know the men's list?
I think it's like 2 or 3 billion. To be
Billion?
Yeah. Like a billion doesn't like. I guess billionaire would be the next level because at least that's a threshold.
I think billionaire is the new millionaire.
Sorry.
Billionaire is the new millionaire.
I don't disagree.
Like when I was a kid, I always dreamt of being a millionaire.
Yeah.
Thinking a millionaire was a billionaire.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't realize, and maybe back then it still wasn't the case. I don't believe, but $1 million wasn't really that much money, even then.
Yeah. 100,000 a year was my goal. Because
when you think millionaire as a normal person, you're thinking extravagance and at least decamillionaire level stuff. You're not realizing like that's barely enough to like really do anything.
Yeah, and I don't think that you can at that time predict like the amount of overhead that you're also going to accumulate. So the amount of risk that you have to lose how much of that million with trying to move forward and make more than $1 million is like you're going to lose money trying to make more money. So it's people don't think about that.
Yeah, you lose millions to make decamillions.
Yeah.
Hey, and by the way, I would have been dropping bombs the whole time if we were dropping bombs. So don't think I forgot. It's just there'd be too many of them. It'd be a carpet bomb.
Just
So,
I can't hear anything.
just the whole episode's bombs.
so does it feel good when you wake up in the morning? Obviously, to where you can pretty much do whatever you want. What couldn't you do right now?
I think it's not what you can't do, but like based on our goals, what we have restricted ourselves to achieve those goals. So like going on a lot of vacations right now, taking a lot more time with friends, doing a lot of things like at our leisure, waking up and being like, I don't feel like doing anything today. Like that's not how it's working right now at all. So it's very much like we're in the middle of building like we're building all these businesses, but at the same time, we're building our team at Acquisition.com. It's not just me and Alex. We have really talented, high-level people that are on that team so that we can expand our portfolio without losing quality in terms of our service and like how much we can help them.
Yeah.
And
Where are you finding these people?
All over the place. I mean, there's referrals, there's LinkedIn, there's, scraping lists from, Harvard or McKinsey or, whatever, and finding people that just recently graduated or work at a place and just outbound. And so most of it's outbound. There's not much inbound.
What is your weight on a degree?
Not a ton. I think what I like is to have a healthy mix of people that have institutional knowledge versus in the trenches knowledge. So people have been there, done that, and they've built businesses, or they've been, say the VP of sales for something that's gone from, 5 million to 50 million or 100 million. And then there's people who have, done consulting at McKinsey, and they've worked with companies between 50 and $1 billion. Right. And so I think each of them have a different kind of knowledge. I think that I look at it more as not the knowledge that one person has, but like the collective knowledge of the team and the collective, like the diversity in thinking that we get in that one team. So I don't care about like whatever diversity stuff. I think diversity of thinking, which is like different perspectives. What I think is really great about the team we have now is that everyone can argue. Like we have constantly are arguing with each other. We have conflicting points of views, and we have the same values and we understand the mission. And it's because everyone's really smart and talented. They just have different experience. And so that allows us to come to better conclusions than we would if we were all thinking the same way. We all had the same experience. We all kind of like looked and dressed the same way. Like our team is very diverse in terms of like you look at all of us and we're like, we don't look like each other. We don't dress like each other. Like it's great.
Would eclectic fit?
Yeah, I would say everyone's got their own style.
It's diverse.
Yeah.
It's diverse.
Are you guys wordsmiths?
What does that even mean?
You look up words just so you have a much broader vocabulary?
I don't know.
I look up words every day.
I make up words on accident.
I look up words every day too because I like knowing them.
I like looking up normal words.
Like which one?
Like what is a lead?
It's a meadow.
Right? No, I mean like a lead. Everyone talks about like
a lead.
leads. Yeah.
I thought you said a lead.
Oh no.
I was gonna say like, dude, that's a deep one, but I already know it's a fucking meadow.
Yeah. So less like vocabulary, more just defining terms. I feel like I spend a lot of time on that. A lot.
Is that where you get your framework abilities?
I think it's
I'm gonna start mimicking your framework abilities.
I would love it if more people made framework. It would save it.
If everybody wants the secret to social media, guys, I'm telling you, just go look at their social media and realize that all that shit is intentional. There's nothing There's no play going on. They are freaking 100%. Da, 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 da.
Well,
And you guys are machines. Like you both have it coming out left and right, bang, bang, which means you're sitting around for hours at a time telling the camera frameworks and thoughts and opinions. You're more thoughts and opinions. He's more framework, but you both kind of do frameworks.
Hey, you want to spend an hour a week with me helping you become a business badass? Well, check out my group in the link below.
Do you think all of a sudden the COVID-19 pandemic would end?
I think hospitals would go out of business.
What do you mean?
Well, because they would no longer
the
be
pandemic would end, wouldn't it?
Right. And as the downstream effect of that is that the whole point of flattening the curve was to not, or at least what we were told, or at least my understanding was, we were trying to flatten the curve so we don't overwhelm the healthcare system.
Yep.
The healthcare system is underwhelmed. They are going out of business, getting furloughed because no one's there.
And that's a fact. That's not a theory.
Right.
You're not conspiracy theorying.
I have the powers that be. I have no statement on. It's just that. So yes, I think the incentives are misaligned. I think that you fundamentally like that when you made the rules that way, the game was going to be played this way. Whether it was intentional or not is another discussion. But like I can see why someone would say, yeah, well, if they have COVID, then we want to give them funding. That makes sense. Well, we don't have any tests, so we should just say if it looks like COVID. That makes sense in theory, but then in practicality, it means anyone who shows any sign of weakness before they die, I can get $13,000 for. Then human incentives is going to kick in. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and not making it a felony to be wrong. So at the end of the day, again, I wouldn't blame a hospital. If I owned a hospital and the government came in and said the same thing, dude, I don't consider it fraud. It's like, dude, if they have an indication that they might have COVID, you can get 13 G's. I'd be going, dude, that dude was coughing.
He looks like COVID, doesn't that guy smells like COVID, doesn't he?
Listen, he was sniffling, and that's a COVID thing. So COVID. Well, now these numbers start piling up, and all of a sudden it's like, see, I'm just wondering though, is it all coincidental and accidental, or is there some seriously sinister motherfucker somewhere doing this on purpose? Like, in other words, it was all a master plan. They knew offering money for COVID patients would cause all these people, because those doctors in LA were talking, which they get deleted all the time, saying, hey, why are we being pressured to put COVID? They said they were being pressured to put COVID. Why?
Yeah. Probably because of the funding. Like if you don't do it, we don't make the 13 grand.
Yeah, but well, who was pressuring them is the question. Because if it was the hospital owners, well, then that would make sense. But
Right.
what if it's the politicians? What if it's the government?
That I don't know. I don't have I think that most people a lot of times, and take this with a grain of salt, but I think most conspiracy theories typically aren't right. And that's just people attribute, they worst case scenario it. I think the amount of coordination it would take to make something like this happen, and the level of prediction that it would take to know all of the human incentives that are going to kick in at every level with this much panic seems unrealistic to me. But I can describe the current scenario, you know what I mean? And I can say that it doesn't really make sense now, at least from where I'm sitting. But
You see it ending soon.
from an economic standpoint,
No. Do you see someone coming out going, all right, frick, we were wrong. Go ahead. Go back to work.
no.
Right now, you got to wear masks. We're
Yeah.
rolling it out in phases. They're worried about the second wave. It's all this, like, dude, the governor in Washington is like putting together National Guard to go door to door and test
To
people.
remove people or whatever. Yeah.
And then you got Governor Newsom in California. He's basically saying, well, we're going to lock down till August. Here's my question. Based on what? Like when laws get made, man, there has to be a bill introduced. Then it has to get past, I think, the Senate or the House. Then it goes to the Senate. Then it goes to the president before it's a law. You remember the old, sitting here on Capitol Hill. Remember that cartoon?
I didn't
I'm
see the cartoon, but no.
Bill. Well, you can Google it because, yeah, you're a young man. I'm an old dog. But there used to be an after school cartoon that would be like, there'd be a rolled up piece of paper, but he had a face, and he'd be like, I'm just a Bill sitting here on Capitol Hill. And both basically it was teaching kids how laws became laws. Okay, so who says that there's a law that you can't go outside? When did it go to the Senate and then the House and then the president signed it?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're in agreement. I think it's ridiculous. I try not to think about it because I end up just getting angry, and then it doesn't It doesn't help my state, doesn't help me operate my business. So I try not to engage in it too much because it's very frustrating. Because most entrepreneurs, most people who are listening to this are entrepreneurs or aspiring to be. We all seek freedom, right? Like even more so than general population, right? Like we're in America, which by its very nature is a more free country than anywhere else. And then of that cream of the crop, the craziest motherfuckers want the freest freedom, which is entrepreneurs. We want no one to tell us what we have to do. Like I still get bothered getting told to put a mask on when I go into public because I'm like, guys, come on. Look at the data. Like this is the flu. I have to get into some places. Like to get groceries.
Well, you don't go get. Oh, you must. I was going to say it's $5 to fucking deliver them. So that's out of the question.
Well, the Instacart's like 6 days delayed.
That's out of the question for the Hormozi. I want to talk to Leila and see if she likes it or hates it.
Oh, she hates it.
Yeah, I would too, dude. My wife would not put up with that shit.
Yeah, she hates it. So, but I'm a big believer in controlling the things we can control. And so right now, these are the cards that were dealt. I'm going to just play the hand.
Well, here, let me just see if I can help you a smidge. Okay.
Yeah.
Spend some fucking money, dude. Serious. Like, dude, you got one car and your wife wants another one. And you're like, why do we need one? You don't need one. You don't. You can have two more and nothing's going to happen. You won't lose 1 ounce of sleep. You won't make less of an impact. Nothing's going to happen except for you make your wife happy. So now
I said okay.
Oh, okay, good. but 20 grand's their limit. You guys are doing 37 million a year, but hey, go get a Camry. Ain't no fucking Mercedes happening around here.
Which is great because then we can drive it without worrying about it, right? Like somebody tries to cut me off in my lane, I'm like, you can hurt the Camry. I'm good with it.
Dude, you can do that with any car. I had a 488 Ferrari, and everyone kept going like, dude, I can't believe you park it right there. I can't believe you drive it like that. I can't believe you give it to the valet guy. Guess what? Number one, it's insured just like a fucking Camry. Number two, if you own your possessions, then they don't own you. But most people buy these things and then those things actually end up owning the person.
Yeah.
Because they won't do that. They're worried, ooh, someone might scratch my car. Would you care if they scratched a fucking Camry? Well, it's just a Camry. It's just a car. It's just a fucking expensive car, but it's still a car.
I'll tell you a funny story about that. I rolled up to my first mastermind. So this is like, we just started gym launch. This may be 90 days later. We're doing maybe 250, 300 a month, but now 250, 300 a month, but like in information. So I'm taking home like 250 to 300 a month. And at this point, I'm a scratch millionaire, cash millionaire in my bank account after taxes, like it's there. And we roll up in a Prius with a crack in the windshield and a dent on the side to the mastermind. And I swear to God, there's a lady outside. She was one of our clients. And she said, I thought you were supposed to be like rich. She literally said this to me. And I was like, I am. You should see my bank account. But at that point, Leila was like, we should get another car. It looks bad. I was like, okay. So,
well, if I have any influence on you, which I'm sure I don't, spend some money, dude. What if you got hit by a car or something? What if you get COVID?
What if I get COVID? I've already had it. I'm sure I've had it. It's fine.
Yeah, but you said you don't have any kids. So what do you do with your money?
Well, Leila can then spend it on whatever she wants.
What if you die together?
If we die together, then my dad can spend it on whatever he wants.
Why don't you?
My dad's not spend it on anything.
Is he tight? Is he tight too?
Yeah, he's the one. He was the one with the paper napkins. He's the one with the paper towels. Yeah.
Oh, whatever. So let's go back to the drama and the conspiracy just for a minute. So step one, the whole plan was to flatten the curve. Man, we can't overwhelm our hospitals because if we do, man, we're all going to die because we won't have enough beds. Okay, so that's already been accomplished. We flattened the curve. Yeah. Why are they not letting us get back out there?
I think it transitioned to politics at that point. So that's just what I would observe is like, what's the money? Where's the motive? So
who do you think's at fault, Democrats or Republicans?
Well, I think that the Democrats would have the most to gain from tanking the economy because the only way that Trump would get unelected is if they can attack that. I mean, that makes sense to me. So on some level, it's like, well, maybe if we hold out, if we can tank the country till then. There's also some state incentives, right? Like California is so bankrupt as a state, right? That maybe if they further tank their economy, they can blame it on COVID, and then they can get a bailout from the federal government, and then balance their budget.
That's exactly what's happening.
Right. That would make sense to me as an incentive. Now,
you're
is that horrible? Does that mistreat everyone in your state? Absolutely. Like, that's horrible.
You're the first one that I've talked to that actually, identifies with that. I've said that 3 times, that these states that are seemingly being more restricted than the rest all seem to be the states that were financially not doing as well as the rest. And when you think they'll give 13,000 for a dead body, or a COVID patient, 39,000 if you put them on a ventilator.
Yeah.
How much are they paying if you fucking tank your whole state's economy? Like they'll just bail you out.
Right. They'll just print money. I mean, it's not backed by anything. So the Fed can just, they can write a check to whoever if they want to.
Well, that's poor leadership. Poor leadership. That's another thing I don't
agree
like.
with you. I think that's horrible. But we're kind of witnessing it. So again, I try not to, it's what can I control? I can control how much we can market, how much we can sell, and if we can solve the problems. Like that's what we can do for now. If I was in California, I feel really bad because, most small businesses can't sustain for 6 months, because they're closed through August, right? Through August, average small business owner has 21 days of cash on hand.
Wouldn't you move if you lived there?
I would. I already did move away. I used to live in SoCal, so I totally would move. I did.
For taxes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody, see, that's my point. Like anybody that's smart, like even semi-smart, would not live there just because of stupid ass taxes. Now you introduce this strict COVID bullshit, dude. I'd be so fast out of SoCal, it'd be over with. Like I'd already be moving, money or no money. I'd be out.
Yeah.
What's scaring me is that I don't see any, leadership, if that's what you want to call it, stopping it. Like I think if I were Trump, I'd tell Newsom, hey Newsom, okay, stop. Anyone that did this, I'd be like, dude, we're taking over. Feds are taking over. This is leadership. All 50 states are going to listen to me right now. Boom. Do you have no more independence right now? We're 50 and we're going to act as one. Here's the leadership. I'd get rid of Fauci because he's a freaking scare tactic son of a bitch that has ties to Gates and all that. And then I just freaking tell people, listen, there's a virus. It can kill old people with comorbidities. The data is this. Now make up your own mind. Because this is a free country. If you want to open your restaurant and somebody wants to come in and eat at that restaurant, then frickin' you both are adults. Have at it. Okay. Yeah. If you're scared, stay home. The last thing I'm going to talk about.
If you want to have unprotected sex and you're in an HIV hot zone, you should know it's an HIV hot zone. Probably don't do that in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah. And why aren't they shutting down the world for that?
Yeah.
So my question, last question, when it comes to this COVID shit, because I want to get back to the marketing. I want to pick the brain real quick on marketing. We're almost out of time, but I want to pick it a little farther. But what about masks?
Yeah, I think I don't know anyone who I'm fairly sure from what I have heard. The masks that are being required. I'm not saying masks don't work in general, but the masks that are being required are not the ones that work. And so, if I pull my shirt up or I put a bandana on my face, right, to go to the supermarket, like, what am I, and then some people wearing gloves, some people not wearing gloves. Most people don't even know how to put a mask on right. They put it on their head, they put it on their forehead, they touch their face again. It doesn't do the preventive measure. What I would argue for masks is that it makes people aware of germs while they're wearing it. It doesn't actually have any functional thing, but psychologically, people are wearing it and they're going to be more cognizant of germs in general. That would be the only.
What about hypoxia? What about breathing in your own carbon monoxide?
I don't know how, but I think there's a lot of workers every day that breathe through masks, painters, nurses, surgeons who are in surgery all day. I think they do okay. That's where I would look if I was to pull data.
You say, oh, okay. See, now this is why I asked you, because, dude, I knew I'd get intelligent, common sense, logical, data-driven answers. Serious. Like, dude, I can ask some people, they get all emotional and shit. Like, fuck them. They're trying to control us all. And I'm one of them a little bit. Like, I'm getting pissed with this mask shit. Okay. Fuck you and your mask. Okay. I don't want to wear a goddamn mask, period. Okay. Now, again, if I had COVID and it prevented people from getting it, of course I would wear a mask voluntarily. But number one, I don't have COVID. And then they're like, well, how do you know? There's people with COVID that are asymptomatic. And I said, how the fuck do you know that there's people with COVID with asymptomatic, or they're asymptomatic. Guess what? The news said it. Exactly, you fuck nut. You ain't out there performing fucking tests and verifying people have COVID, but they've got no symptoms. This is crazy. This guy is testing positive for COVID, but yet he has no symptoms. This shit can be asymptomatic. Who says that? I'll bet you 50 fucking bucks that's bullshit, if you ask me. Like, dude, have the flu asymptomatic. Dude, if you got the flu, you got some fucking symptoms. Okay, period. Now they're saying COVID is asymptomatic. No. That's so they can claim things. That's what I believe. Because again, how do you know if someone has COVID? You took a test. Okay, what's that test testing for? How do we know that test is even testing for COVID?
That's a whole nother. I would say there's two points that I would have delineated on what you were just saying. We talked about how we're marking deaths. Another part of data quality is how are we marking positives, right? In terms of cases. So now this is 100% anecdotal. So this is me speaking off conjecture, but my closest friend is a PhD biochemist. And he was explaining to me that coronavirus is a family of viruses, and it's not just COVID-19. And the tests that they have right now are testing. This was from my understanding from what he said. It tests for a certain protein, but that belongs to the whole family. And so it's not just that one that they've isolated, it's just the whole thing. And then that automatically makes the tests kind of invalid, and they're not accurate. So then you have false positives or, whatever. So it's like both data sources that we're using to make the decisions. If you were actually making decisions as a CEO, if you're making decisions about your business and your salespeople got commissions for marking people as showed up for their appointment but not closed, all of a sudden you'd have so many show-ups that'd be showing up to what? Well, you didn't close them, right? Well, I just marked that they showed up, right? I still get paid if they show up, right? And so, you know what I mean? That's kind of the teeter-totter there. The second piece was what you were saying about the asymptomatic. I actually see it in a different light with asymptomatic. I think that a ton of people have already had it. They just didn't show anything, which then means that we have a lot more herd immunity that's already been encountered. Because big picture with germs, in my opinion, if there were something, we'd all be fucked. That's my actual belief, because the amount of times we touch things, touch our face, we get boxes in the mail where someone drops them off, and the driver touches the wheel. Like, there's too many times. Like, and what do? They keep their glove on, they touch their face, or they touch their cell phone, they take their glove off, and they touch their phone again. It doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, there's too many ways to spread germs that a glove and a mask is going to prevent it. Maybe you could say it cuts down on it, but the transmission, in my opinion, would still happen either way. So I think a lot more people have been exposed to it than would otherwise. And they got it. They have an immune system. Immune system reacted, created antibodies, and they didn't need to show anything. Maybe they were short of breath for a little bit, but they barely noticed it. And then all of a sudden you might have 20 times the amount of people who have gotten it compared to what they're even saying, even the inflated numbers, because that's a separate issue, the testing. But if 20 times the amount of people or 10 times the amount of people have already had it, then half the country's already had it and just nothing happened, right? So I think there's some layers to it. Big picture, we've dealt with the flu our whole fucking lives, like whatever. So sorry, that's my 2 cents on both those two things.
Intelligent, data-driven answers. Thank you, Mr. Hormozi. Now let's get back to some marketing discussion to wrap this up. I want to know, if I'm a business out there, a business owner, regardless of what business I'm in, if I decided to follow in the footsteps of Alex Hormozi, am I pronouncing that right? Hormozi?
Hormozi, yep.
So if I followed in the footsteps of Alex Hormozi and said, fuck it, I need to learn how to market first, would that be a wise step for every entrepreneur on earth to learn it themselves rather than rely on someone else?
Yes.
Even if it costs money, even if they don't have the money, even if they got to go spend some of that hard-earned capital that they don't have.
So I have a fundamental belief that you cannot be broke and have time. You got to pick one, right? You either have time and no money, or you've got money and no time. You can't have neither, right? Because if you're broke, you can always trade more time for dollars. You can always do that. As I've leveled up as an entrepreneur, I've always had a plan B that was $100,000 a year, even with zero. So when I had my gyms, my plan B was I'd drive Uber during the day and I'd strip at night. That was 100% my plan B. If this failed, that's what my plan B was. I'd make 150 grand a year doing that. I'd make 75 as an Uber driver, working 12, and then I'd probably make another 75, maybe 100 stripping at night. I don't care. Zero. Like, I have no shame in that stuff. Like, that's how I operate. And so if someone's like, well, I don't want to strip at night, Alex, like, cool, then get another job, whatever. You can drop ship, you can go e-commerce. Like, there's a million things you can do. But the point is, if you work for 16 hours a day, like, you will have enough money to buy the things that you want to level up your skill set. But your investment, in my opinion, I think you should be consistently investing in skills until you can't even find somewhere to put the money to invest in more skills. And so I had a talk that I gave a while ago where I got quoted. I was like, unless you're making $100,000 a month take home, at that point is maybe when I would maybe consider not spending as much on it, but still, like, it's just hard to spend $100,000 a month in education, to be honest with you. Like, but if I see something, I buy it instantly. And when it was in the beginning of my career, it might've been half of my paycheck or 100% of my paycheck was going towards learning how to market, learning how to sell, because everything, at least for me, is sequential. So you have to solve your first problem. I don't have customers. Well, I need to learn how to get demand. I need to generate demand. And then you're like, well, shit, how do I get them to show up for these appointments? And then you learn how to nurture leads. And then, shoot, these people are showing up for their appointments. I don't know how to sell. Then you learn how to sell. And then you're like, well, shit, what am I selling? Obviously, you should have some idea what you're selling before you start. But typically, you can sell services. You can sell information or services. Both cost zero money to start. And I think that those are the best businesses to start for people who are starting out, because they don't require capital to get going. It just requires knowledge. And knowledge is easy to attain. And a lot of knowledge you can get for very little money. You can go on Udemy, you can go on YouTube, and you can Google right now how to run Facebook ads. It's not Google how to run Facebook ads. You'll learn how to run Facebook. How to build a landing page.
Would you learn well, though?
Was that?
Would you learn well? Is there free how to run Facebook ads that you've witnessed that are like, dude, that is how you do it?
It's a great question. Because when you're starting, you don't have the perspective from which to make a judgment on what is good and what is bad. Yes, I can identify what a good Facebook ad training would be on YouTube, but somebody who's starting may not. So what's the solution? You got to ask you. You got to start, right?
Or just ask you, what's a good one? What's a good one?
Oh, I think if you look at John Loomer, he's got great stuff. You look at Justin Brook, he's phenomenal at traffic in general. You look at John Belcher, Jon Belcher, he's got great stuff on traffic. I mean, if you look for it, they're there. You know, go like. Yeah,
but everybody says, oh, those are all scams. Those fucking online courses are all ripoffs.
Well,
which they're not.
You took Spanish in high school. Do you speak Spanish? Is Spanish a ripoff?
No.
Right. You just weren't good at it. Okay. Now, that being said, sure, there are people who aren't. And so my belief is that most people are not intrinsically bad. I don't think people have bad intentions. There are some people who are better at teaching than others. And I will 100% give you that. There's some courses that don't do a good job at teaching the thing. That's usually not the intention of the person. It's probably an earlier on entrepreneur. It's just not as good, right? This is being real. And so I think that the best way to do this, if I'm looking at if I'm starting out, where am I going to invest my money? I'm going to look at the most proven business, the one that has the most reviews, the most 5 stars, whatever. I'm going to look at that business and I'm going to say, okay, this many people got results of this. There must be enough here that if I work it, it will work. Right. If someone's got no reviews, then I probably wouldn't load there. They've got 2. If you get on the phone with someone, they're like, well, I've got 2 customers. It's like, maybe because you have the option. You can go to someone who's got 100. You can go to someone who's got 500. So go to the people who already have proven it out and go. Now, one of the hacks that I've had in my life is that when I really want to acquire a skill, I pay for one-on-one training. So this is earlier on. This is when I had my gyms. I learned enough about Facebook ads I learned enough to be dangerous, but not enough to be like an expert. I learned enough to get the job done, but I knew that I needed to level up my skill set. So I walked around or asked people, I said, who are the best guys? And one guy came up. And so I called him up. I said, hey man, like I need to learn Facebook ads. And he's like, well, he's like, I've got a course. And I was like, no, I don't want to go through your course. I want you to teach me how to run these ads for my gym the way you would run them. And he was like, well, I don't do that. And I'm like, it's America. Everyone's got a price. What is it? Right? What would it take for you to go one-on-one with me? He said $750 a week. And I said, done. Like, why didn't you just say that? Right? And so one of the big beliefs that I have, even in the gym space, is you should always have a one-on-one price because someone is willing to pay it. right? And make it a price that you'd be actually happy to say yes to. Like, I still sell personal training services for $500,000 an hour. You want to come to my house? I'll train you $500,000 an hour all day long. I'll do it. No problem. Right? I have that price. Most people aren't willing to do that because there's an alternative solution that's just about as good for probably 100,000th of that. But the point remains that if you can, you'll much more rapidly learn. And that person in a one-on-one setting will be forced to cater the context of the content to what you're looking for. And so I was like, I don't want to generalize. I was like, I want you to teach me how you would run my ads for my gym. And then he showed me. And I was like, great, now I know how to do this stuff. And then
was he in the gym business?
No, he was just a traffic guy. And so it only took.
What if I called him and I said, I want you to teach me, well, not me, my guy. I want you to teach my guy how to run Lightspeed ads.
Yeah, I do that all the time for my team. So for my traffic guy, I have 2 guys that I pay one-on-one consulting fees for to teach him. And he already knows any course that you want, I will buy it for you. Here's the contingencies. You have to go through it. You have to take notes, and you have to tell me exactly how we're going to use it. And then you have to show me once you did. Otherwise, I won't buy you another one. And he's been doing that every time. And that's why I've got one of the best traffic guys on the planet. No one even knows who he is. It's okay. Because he's done. But that's because I invested in him. Because what better use? Same thing with the sales guys. You want a sales training? You want it? I'll give it to you. But you got to go through it. You got to show me how you're going to change the scripting up. And you got to show me how you've been implementing it. Or you're not getting another.
If somebody's listening to this says, man, I can't afford these courses, what's in your mind, the best marketing book to start with?
I actually think that .com Secrets, Russell's book, is a really good starting place. It's not going to teach you how to run ads, but because so for people who are starting out, the fundamental problem with everyone who's starting out is that they're thinking that there's one question they can ask that's going to make them money. And that's not the truth, because there's not one skill that will make you money. Like learning how to market, like we're saying, like Brad and I are saying, is not one skill. It's learning how to write headlines. It's learning how to write copy. It's learning how to make creative, learning how to make videos. It's learning how to make landing pages that convert, learning how to build an opt-in page, learning how to build a text and follow-up sequence. Like those are all learning how to link all those together, learn how to place the ad on a traffic platform, learning the different nuances between Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and Twitter and whatever, TikTok, who cares, right? So there's a lot of mini skills that encompass marketing. And that's why guys who are starting out are like, man, I bought this course on copywriting and I didn't make any more money. I was like, well, yeah, you don't know how to place an ad. You don't know how to build a landing page. You don't know how to make an offer. You don't know how to stack value. You don't have that yet, right? You have to have all those things. And unfortunately, people who are starting out mistake making $0 as a lack of progress. But the reality is that you have a lot of steps that are underground that you have to step up below ground zero. The moment you make your first dollar that goes over the bridge from you marketing and selling, the second dollar comes right afterwards. It's not as hard to go from $0 to $1 as it from $1 to $2. Like it's just getting the first dollar across the bridge that's the hard part. And building the bridge has a lot of bricks.
Dude, smart man. Alex Hormozi, folks, if you guys want to follow him at Hormozi, Hormozi on Instagram, Alex.Hormozi on Facebook, Twitter, your gym launch. And if I were you guys, I'd go, especially if you're in the gym business, but listen, you can learn a lot, even if it's not a gym business you're in. I'd go get his book. You buy that at alexsbook.com, alexspodcast.com. You'd be hearing all kinds of shit like this on a regular basis. And the meals, dude, Prestige Meals or Prestige Labs started this done for you meals.com or alexsmeals.com. Dude, if you go there and you, order meals, basically, in my mind, every gym on earth should have fucking meals. Why? Well, because don't they say like 80% of it is how you eat? So why are you going to the gym every day, 6 days a week, then going home trying to figure out how to eat healthy when for a chump change amount of money, you buy the meals too? So that's the last thing I want to talk about, dude. Those meals, what, like, I don't know how you seal them, but when they show up and they're all freaking Easy as shit. It tells you exactly the freaking micros and the macros, and you pop it in a microwave for 2 minutes and 30 seconds, 4 minutes if it's frozen, and you got some freaking good ass nutritious meals instant. Why wouldn't everybody on earth do that?
So most people don't think rationally. Right? If you make more than $40,000 a year, it makes no economic sense for you to take the time to grocery shop, bring it in, put the things in the cabinet, prepare your food, decide what you're going to eat, chop it up, bake it, grill it, eat the food, then clean it. Like all of that, average US American woman spends 10 hours a week just preparing and cleaning food. They spend 3 hours a week on average going to and from the grocery store and shopping for groceries. 2.7, but so you're talking 12 hours a week, and that doesn't even include eating the food, right? 12 hours a week. So you're talking 40 hours a month, right? That you're spending. You're spending an entire work week every month. I don't know what you make per hour, but if you're like, man, I don't have time, I'm like, well, there's 48 hours for you, my gift to you, that you can save, that you can have all that time back to learn all the skills that you say you don't have. And then you have to look at is the opportunity cost of the time, right? Like, shoot, Uber is actually picking back up, but there's a million things you can do in 50 hours a week to afford all of the courses and things that you want. And you should start with books. Books are phenomenal. They cost nothing, right? Like books are cheap. You can buy books. The only stuff that's a little bit more difficult is like, I would say the only thing that has to really be consistently relevant is traffic. That stuff changes constantly. The interface changes, but like everything else, how to sell is evergreen. Once you learn how to sell, never changes. Learning how to market, the theory behind it, making an offer, headlines, writing copy, that does not change, right? So once you learn all those skills, there's only one thing that you need that's relevant. And again, you can look on YouTube and you should be able to just see if this guy's got 500,000, subscribers on YouTube and he's a traffic guy, he's probably pretty good, right? If the guy has like 900, it's about traffic, right? If you knew how to get traffic, you'd probably be pretty good at it. It's like the marketers who, like I've got would-be gurus who would try to attack us. I'm like, why do you think we're 100 times bigger than these guys? Like, well, maybe they're not as good at marketing as we are, but aren't they supposed to be selling you marketing? Right. So like, it's kind of a losing proposition. Like the only way that you can beat us is to be bigger than us, but you're not. So sorry, that sounded arrogant, but that wasn't the point. Anyways, for everyone who's listening, you can learn all this stuff on a dime if you just do it.
Alex, you the man. I appreciate you spending time. We went over my allotted time. I appreciate that. Hopefully you'll look in that email, go check that, hit me up and let me know how that worked out. Cause dude, I got to figure out something. I got to figure out some secret sauce where Lightspeed's got the secret sauce. And then dude, like I said, I'm not greedy. I'll cut you in. You come figure out how to freaking sell it. I'm just starting to do what you did. Now, again, everybody's got their own way of doing things. There's more than one way to skin a cat. But if I were you guys listening, I'd probably follow the way Alex is describing because I did it the backwards way. I learned sales. I can close anybody on anything. And I think the reason I'm successful is because I closed a lot of people on a lot of things, right? So if I would have learned to market first, I think I would be a lot farther ahead. The reason why is I sold everyone a license and let them figure out how to market it. And I would just sit back and cheerlead and be impressed and, oh, good job. Wow. How'd you do that? Oh shit. That's fabulous. Give me my piece. Thank you. What are you doing next? But the problem is when those people started getting big, because the ones that figure out marketing always do, right? When they started getting big, they're like, why the fuck am I cutting you such a big check? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm the one that started this whole thing. I'm the one that told you to do it. They're like, yeah, but we're the ones doing it. And now I can kind of just, figure out some other way to deliver what you've been delivering. And I'm thinking, dude, this is bullshit. This is unfair. So I had to get forced into saying, okay, so now I got to go learn my own marketing. And maybe I'll come back and kick you in the dick really quick by basically coming after you. Now, I'm starting to learn marketing and I'm starting to see, oh shit. And everything you just said, I think folks, if you're listening, one of the main things he said is marketing is a huge word, dude. It's copy. Like people say, just get a click funnel and you'll make millions. No, that's how Russell and I am nothing against Russell or click funnels. I think we use it, but ClickFunnels not all you need. You're not one funnel away. Okay. You're one funnel, one headline, one copywriter, one product, one pricing, one targeting, one placing. Folks, if you don't place the right ad the right way, your beautiful headline and copy doesn't do shit. And vice versa. So that whole thing you said of all those things that are necessary to technically do good marketing is a lot. And
it's a lot. And
it's a lot.
If everyone here is listening, feels overwhelmed by that, good, because it means that the rest of the market is going to stay broke. And if you do achieve it, there's just unbelievable amounts of gold on the other side of the rainbow.
Automated gold,
right?
I'm serious. Dude, like Closer School, I'm not doing it. I hired someone to do it. But dude, I'm doing $10,000, $15,000 a week. I'm spending $875 a day. I haven't scaled it. I just threw it out there. I do it as an example. So when people come here and they're like, oh, Lightspeed doesn't work. I'm like, dude, look, it's 4 hours of training. I put it in the system. I advertise it. We're doing 15 grand a week. Okay. Net, by the way. So it does work, but the automated money makes me think, dude, why am I not filling up Closer School? Why am I not taking that more seriously? Why don't I scale that up? Like, that's crazy. I don't do anything.
Yeah.
I love automated money.
Let me add one thing for everybody who's starting out, who's really like just getting new. Sales and demand gen, those two skills alone will feed you for the rest of your life. Like you'll never go hungry. And in my opinion, the way that you can get much better at marketing much faster, or at least make money online much faster, is connecting a phone to a funnel. All right. It's much more difficult, takes much more split testing, way more savvy and skill to get someone to take their credit card out and buy something from you than it does to get them to give your name, phone number, and email address. All right. And so, and right now there's products on Facebook that you can just do a lead ad, which you don't have to build a page. You just run the ad and they double click on their thumb and then you automatically get the name of the lead. And what do? You call them up and you say, hey, so-and-so, you're from the internet. What's up? What made you click on the ad? Right. And then Brad's probably giving you every content under the sun for how to close someone. So like, you're not that far away. I would try and simplify this whole thing is like, if you can just get someone to give you their name, phone number, and email address and say, I would like more information on this problem, you can sell them. Right. And then you just have to learn a very simple script. Sales over the phone is a skill that you can learn in weeks. It's not a skill, like it takes years to perfect it, but you can get proficient in a matter of weeks with reps. So I just to reverse what I said about disincentivizing you, there's a very little amount that you just have to do to get that first dollar. Just get them on the phone and then close them. I still to this day don't sell anything through a funnel. Because I'm a sales guy first, and I learned how to market because I went to that conference, and I've kind of continued to level up. I still think I'm better at sales than I am at marketing. But I just always want to meet someone as soon in the funnel as I can, because I know how to drill a sales team. I know how to build sales scripts. I know how to get them to close. And usually you can get 10 times, 20 times as much money attaching a phone to a funnel than you can trying to get someone to buy something through a funnel. And so it also allows you a lot more safety net for sucking at marketing. Right? Like, I don't think the marketing that we have is the best out there. We just make more than everyone else does per customer. And that allows us to outbid everyone. So it's just a key differentiator.
Yeah, and your price has to kind of stay low if you expect it to be without touching and talking.
Yeah, you can instantly 4 or 5x your prices over the phone if you have someone selling it instantly, no matter what the product is.
You guys collaborate on who's going to do what?
We tend to, the more we've spoken together, and also because we've run all the companies together, like we tend to know what the other, I have a good idea what Leila's probably going to say or what angle she's going to kind of cover on a question, and she probably has a pretty good idea of like what angle or approach I'm going to have on a question. And so we usually kind of it's taken time to not, I'd over talk or show up, we've learned that dynamic.
How did you guys learn to do all this? Did you hire experts? Because you're just like, for example, your podcast, like this is my podcast. I accidentally am in the higher rankings. I don't know why. If I were to do what you do, I would be way higher in the rankings. Like, in the beginning, this podcast is brought to you by the way, go here, go there. Like, I don't do any of that shit. And that's basic 101 smart things to do.
I don't think so though. I mean, like everything that I've seen that actually, like people, like your story is not uncommon. There's so many people, like Alex's book. There's no optimization to get this book to like sell or blow up. Same with his podcast.
But that book was good. Everybody
That's what I'm saying.
loves the
Your
book
podcast
because
is good.
By the way, $100 million offer or 100M offers.
Yeah.
There's a sequence coming out after that. Are they out yet?
No, I'm working on Leads, which is the next
But see,
one.
that's what I mean by methodical. Like you didn't just write a book. You already knew the 4 you were going to write before you wrote any of them. You already have this master plan. And all those books lead somewhere. I'm telling you. They're all strategic. They are all exact. I guarantee you that $100 million offer, that's a good one. But people like that book.
Yeah.
You know, when people start liking books and, you know, it goes around, you can sell quite a few. How many have you sold?
200,000.
Holy shit. See, my book, I sold like 12,000.
Yeah.
It was like not easy either. It took like a year and a half. But I didn't call anybody and say, hey, can you send this to your list? I didn't do anything intelligent, I would say.
Well, you know, it's funny because what you were saying about like, does a business need marketing, right? Like theoretically, the best marketing, and like this sounds old, but like the best marketing is a really good product. And so like, I think the reason this podcast is doing well is because like it's a good product. You know what I mean? People talk about it. And if you think about how to market in general, like how do people tell other people about stuff, right? That's what it means. And so most of the times you have input to output in terms of like, I put in a phone call, I put in the input of a post, I make a video, like there's inputs and then there's outputs. And I might add money to that to get even more output, but all of those are still linear equations. So it's like, I put in $1, I get 10, right? And it could be the same for advertising. It'd be the same. I put in 10 phone calls, I get 1, whatever it is. But the only one that's quadratic, so exponential in nature, is word of mouth. One person tells 2, 2 people tell 4, 4 people tell 8. And so like, that's where I think the magic explodes, is when the product is really exceptional. Which is what you're touching on in your podcast. When you say, like at the end, you say, if you found any value in this, tell your buddy or something. I use my very white voice. It's like, but it's just like, I'm listening to him like, I should be doing that. I should be doing that. I should be doing that. And you do it quick and easy and it's almost nonchalant, like you're not even doing it. Honestly, that was Caleb's wreck. I mean, we knocked down 370 episodes before I had a single like, oh yeah, by the way, I have other things that you can check out if you want. You should so like, you know, I think we're big on like, just get going, and it's better to get going and then learn along the way than to just try and make it perfect on the. And just give value. Like if you give value, like we just know that goodwill accumulates. People will tell their friends about it. Like we're not so worried about like asking. Like if somebody really wants to know how to buy something from you, they'll Google your freaking name. You know what I mean? And then they'll figure out what you sell. And like we don't actually sell anything, but like people will find other things they can consume from us. Yeah. Well, number one, the YouTube channel. Where's that? AlexHormozi.com? Yeah, or just, I mean, if they just search my name, it'll come up. Did you go get AlexHormozi.tv? No, but I have AlexHormozi.com. I should probably buy it before this airs. Well, you should get that one. Yeah. Because when people say, well, what's your YouTube channel? I just say Bradley.tv. Yeah, when they go there, it just redirects. One hand on the camera, one buying it. But yeah, you give a lot of framework, a lot of value there. You don't have a podcast, or are you just on his? No, I'm not even on his. I'm starting one, I think in like maybe 6 weeks we're starting mine. But it's just gonna be a little different. It's gonna be about scaling specifically. So are you like when it comes to business, when you guys attack, one does something, someone does something else. What is it that you do? I would actually, just from how you visualize it, we both do the same thing. We do different aspects of it. So it's like, this is the plan we both agree to. And so I'm going to say like, this is what the product suite needs to be. This is what the, maybe the experience needs to look like, et cetera. And then Leila's like, who needs to do this? What type of team needs to exist? What needs the communication cadence of the company to make this happen? See, that's exactly what I need here. Yeah, I know. Yeah. See, I need a Leila right now. I think it's just internal, external for the most. Yeah. And I would say that like Alex is more of a starter and I'm more of a follow through. So like when we start the businesses, he's more involved in the beginning and then I'm more involved after I would say like when it comes to like month 8, then it really switches over and it's like way more Leila. Alex starts pushing off stuff. And yeah, we've actually noticed that like with each of the companies, it's like I always like go off solo and like go into a cave and like do all this other stuff. And then like things start happening, sales start coming in, et cetera. And then it was like, or I usually go to Leila and I'm like, hey, it'd be really cool if we had a team that could help me out here. And then she's like, okay, fine. And then so she comes in and then she comes. So we're kind of like staggered. Like I kind of start and then she kind of continues. And then I usually start on like the next thing that needs to happen in the business. And then usually once that gains traction, she comes in and then she starts building. So it's like parallel tracks.
Do you guys ever argue?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's things we disagree on all the time in
But
business
like
specifically.
fun argue or like argue?
We disagree on stuff rather than, I would say, more than we argue. It's more
Yeah.
like,
I mean, we disagree on things in the business all the time. Most of the time.
Is anybody more consistently right than the other?
we usually come to an agreement of like, I see where you're coming from. What about this? All right, this sounds like the best path. Let's do that.
So what if like you guys wanted to use the money you have in cash? You have a lot of cash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, out of curiosity, why would you do that?
Have
Keep
a lot of
cash?
Yeah.
Well, right now, everything that we would have put money into is down like 60%. Just,
Looks pretty bad.
Because you buy stocks.
well, stocks are some of the things we buy for sure.
But like tax liens aren't down.
Tax liens?
I don't know what that is.
I don't know.
You don't? Shit, opportunity.
I just don't. You know, the
Opportunity,
thing is, like,
folks. Hey, how do I get a little piece from my niece? I'll show you guys how to get 25% on your money
sounds
every
frightening.
year,
Yeah.
guaranteed by law.
I mean, okay, we should
Yeah,
talk about that after.
All
But
right, we'll talk about it after. Good.
Yeah.
I think
I
we
just found me a way to make a little dough with the Hormozis. I'm in the Hormozi Nation now.
Oh my God.
Or no, it's Mosey Nation.
Mosey
Yeah,
Nation.
it's easier.
Dude,
Yeah.
So you guys are growing fast. Everyone listening to this is, I'm sure, already looked you up, Googled you, if they don't already know you. But what's funny is it's not just you and it's not just you. It's both of you. Like you follow Leila, you get freaking information. You follow Alex, you get information. But you guys are a couple. So it's like normally that's not, that's rare right there.
Unfair advantage.
Now,
Well, we kind of saw that. I think as we were building Gym Launch, Alex was always external facing, I was internal.
Yeah.
And then we started Acquisition.com. We were like, man, there's not a lot of people, there's a lot of people that come to us because they know us and they are like run companies together. But we're like, it's not something you see a ton out there, or at least being functional. Or it's like, they run the company together, but like they don't actually run it equally. And so we kind of wanted to.
You have like a helper and a main person,
Yeah.
and like that's not our dynamic. And so, yeah, sometimes there's couples that are involved in a business together, but they are not equal in influence.
Which honestly, people frequently think. They're like, can you schedule this for Alex? And I'm like, oh my God. But that's the perception is like, people are like, oh yeah, me and my wife own this business, but she's like not involved. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's how it normally is, I would say.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's common.
Which there's nothing wrong with it. It's great. But we wanted to, we thought it would be cool to have the two of us out there so that we could show there's different ways to do it. There's no right or wrong, but this is also possible.
Yeah.
Just different.
Do you guys have degrees?
Yeah, we have undergrad degrees.
Yeah.
Not using it?
No, I got mine in exercise science. It's
What
very
about you?
useless.
I got mine in business.
He went to a good school.
Are you using it?
I would not say that I'm using the materials that I learned in college.
Or do you think that the shit you learned in college has merit?
I feel like it's more valuable to learn the theory after you have an experience, because then you can start applying the theoretical to be like, oh, that's what they meant with this. But if you just learn theory and you don't have anything practical to apply to, I would love to see what Harvard Business School and Stanford Business School is about. That would be really cool now. But I think it'd be really hard for me, and not to say those guys are all smart as whips, but for me, just for at least how I learn, I feel like it's much easier for me to learn about a framework on selling. I didn't consume my first piece of sales training until after I'd closed thousands of sales. And I was like, oh, that's cool that they've got rapport. I'm like, oh yeah, I do that. Making some jokes and yeah, I try to. There are these things that you can recognize later. Whereas if you're trying to learn sales, you're build rapport. You know what I mean? Figure out the problem. Do
you think sales is natural or can be learned?
I think you can improve on it, but I think there are people who are naturally good at sales.
Just naturally better because they're funnier or
because of whatever soup of DNA and nurture they had in their upbringing. But it's funny because I actually use you as an example. So many of the people that I know who are exceptional at selling, almost all of them were immediately world class, and then spent a lot of their time, because usually they move up in whatever organization, thinking how am I as good as I am? And then they start trying to teach and duplicate the skills in other people. And so that's where I think there's a little bit of nature nurture. You can absolutely get somebody who's not good at sales to be better. Everyone can improve. But I think that when I look at the people who teach sales, a lot of times, almost all of them were exceptional, very quickly. And so that's where I'm is it nature as a nurture? And when we build sales teams, I'd rather pick people who look like stallions and then like train them to run in a certain direction rather than try and start working out the legs and actually build them into something. You know what I mean? It's easier to take a 6 to a 9 than it is to take a 2 to a 6.
Mm-hmm.
I will say there's also like people who are situationally good at sales. Like a lot of the companies we have, you know, like their clients say that they have a weight loss program, and the people who graduated that weight loss program can sell their program because they've done it, they believe in it, etc. And so they have all the, like, they don't know that they have sales aptitude there, but they do just because they naturally believe in the product. And so their whole sales teams are built out of these women who lost like, you know, 50, 100 pounds with their program. They have no like formal training or anything, and they couldn't sell a car, they couldn't sell software, they couldn't sell anything else, but they could sell that thing.
Yeah, they're convicted.
Because they're a, you know, example of the product.
Yeah. They just have all the things that you try to create with sales training are just inherent to them because they have the belief.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of people following and listening to this that are like entrepreneurial. When I have an event, like people show up and they're like, dude, how do you get so many real mofos to show up? And I'm like, I don't know. But you know, maybe I'm real, but at the end of the day, they do. So listeners, how do they like submit? Go to acquisition.com?
Yeah, they go to acquisition.com, click the button, and if you've gotten to this level of success of the company you have, you'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah, and then you guys, that's ultimately what you spend your days doing when you say you're building acquisition.com.
Most of our time is the
you're looking at different deal flow.
No, we have someone else who looks at the deal flow, sorts it, and then brings like top contenders to us.
See, now that's smart. See what I'd be doing? I'd be down there in the mess trying to get all freaking dirty. I'd be going nuts.
It's its own full-time job. So,
but that's a smart move. You're filtering out and you're saying, hey, just bring me the cream.
Yeah, and then we spend most of our time talking to the current portfolio companies.
Yeah.
What are the parameters? What does the cream look like?
It's a good question.
Well, the first one is filtering for the person. So, I mean, I would say that's probably a piece. If we look at different things, I probably look at the person. You're probably going to look at the market. So I'll cover that piece, which is, you know, we have our 3 core values, which is sincere candor, unimpeachable character, and competitive greatness. And that's what we kind of formulate those because those are hiring parameters for us. Like we won't hire somebody who doesn't have those 3 things.
How do you know though, based on an interview?
I mean, we've put together basically like a list of questions for each one.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I mean, I like stalk them online. So you can go look at all their profiles, go look at past things, client reviews. Like you can get a gist for people nowadays. It's very transparent. So you can find examples and then you can ask them questions like situational, you know, whatever, interview questions, I guess you could say, to see how they handle those and how they, even just how they answer the questions. You know, like I would say that one of the biggest things we look for is someone that doesn't have an ego. You know, if someone's not coachable and they have an ego and they think that their way is the right way and they're even though they want help, they're still like kind of trying to position with us. It's just not going to be a good fit. You know, we look for people who are really humble. They have a lot of humility. They're really open and minded and coachable. And they understand that we don't think that we are also like God and going to be right every time. It's a partnership. And so I think filtering for the person is the first thing. And that's probably the most important because, I mean, whether humans like it or not, we will talk more to people that we like. And so if we don't like them because they don't fit these 3 traits, it's doing them a disservice because I'm just inherently not going to proactively reach out to them as much.
So if somebody got declined after their submission, is it because you didn't like them?
Well, he's got the other half.
There's lots of, so like right off the bat, probably 80% of the deals get filtered out because of just automated rules of like, they're not big enough. We don't take anyone outside of the US. So like they're out of the country. They might be like manufacturing, which is something that we don't do. So, you know what I mean? Like if one of the obvious no's, even it's amazing business, it's just not our amazing business. So those are the automated rules. And then Leila touched on the entrepreneur, which candidly is still like 80% of the decision, maybe even more. And then the remainder of the decision is, do we like the business? Do we like the market? And the business matters less because we can change the business. You know what I mean? Like, more or less. So it's really, when we talk about the business, it's like, is the depth of experience of the founder sufficient that we think it can build a big enough base to get to 50, 100 million? So a lot of times, and most of our businesses are education businesses. So they teach some sort of skill. And so, you know, if someone's had a moderate level of success in doing the skill and then immediately started teaching it, they don't have the depth of experience to really build a big thing. Whereas if someone has really deep experience, really deep industry knowledge on how to do something really, really well, there's just a lot more potential that we can then wrap around with a much better business. So there's the depth of experience of the founder from the skills perspective, and then the marketplace that we're serving and like the perceived value that we see that they could potentially offer. So sometimes we'll have a founder who is selling something or has an ability that they're not even monetizing, and we see that as like a huge untapped opportunity. And that's where we're like, okay, this is where we talk in triples. So it's like first triple is going to be fixing this back end. Second triple is going to be X, Y, and Z. And so if we see the two triples, that's when we get much more interested. But like as a quick total tangent on what Leila had said, because you said like, how do you test for that? One, we're wrong plenty, but if you said like, hey, what's your give me an example of something that you failed at in the past, right? And they'll say something that like, or your biggest failure, and they'll give you some example, and you're like, so why do you think that happened? It doesn't really matter what the failure was, but when they start explaining why they think it happened, if you see someone who's like, well, they didn't give me the support I needed, they just set me off on my own, and I had no support, blah 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 blah, then they're just giving all the control to circumstances and other people. Whereas if someone's like, I probably could have, told management much better, like how much I needed help. I probably could have done X, Y, and Z earlier to communicate these things, whatever. Then they're taking ownership. And so there's just an easy differentiator. It has nothing to do with the failure, but how they perceive the failure. And so you can tell by how they speak about it. It gives you some insight.
What do you say if you're doing it face to face and someone's clearly a no? How do you
tell them no?
How do you end the meeting?
I'm just honest. I think when we have those meetings, that the times that it's been us and we've had to say something, I'm just gonna be like, I'm going to be just really upfront. Seems like you've got something working really well for you. You seem very bright and very smart. I don't know if you need us. So I put it more back on us.
But like, they're like, no. I want you to.
I'm like, I get that, but it would be doing you a disservice to take you on knowing what I know, which is that I don't think we can add significant value based on what you've told me.
You don't get any stalkers that like you have to like just get point blank with?
Not really.
Not from the applications.
Yeah, not from companies that have gotten to that point where they're already doing 3 to 10 million entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs can be eclectic, but they're not insane.
Are you guys getting stalkers with your social media?
I wouldn't say like stalkers.
You getting crazy fans that are finding you out in public and wanting pictures?
We get recognized a lot. That happens.
Which
often.
is fine.
Yeah, we love seeing Mozi Nation out in the wild.
Yeah, that's nothing wrong with that. We haven't had anyone be like super weird. It may be a couple of years ago we had some stuff, but we've figured out how to not let those things be online.
And some people get nervous like in person and all, they're probably a little bit different than they would normally be, and they talk a little faster, they're sweating. But like I don't get that. Just being real,
And they're sweating.
I think it's actually an age thing. Like I've noticed a lot of like younger people probably get more nervous or freak out and scream, type thing. Versus like I think the older someone is, the more they're like they just come and want to have a conversation. We'll ask them questions, have a conversation.
We love seeing Mozi.
So who do you guys look up to? Who do you admire?
Elon and Jeffy B.
Why so then?
And Warren. I consider them on a first name basis because they're my fictitious friends.
Why Jeff B?
He's done something that, I think we aspire to be able to build. He's built something that's helped zillions of people, like hundreds of zillions of people every single day just live a little bit better of life. And Elon's done the same thing, and he's helping the planet and he's trying to save humanity. Like he's combined doing good for society with making a profit, which is, that's the holy grail as far as I'm concerned.
Well, don't you think that Amazon was just a good idea? Like, they started out as a book company, and then it's like, hey, why don't we just let people get access to anything? Well, that would have been a natural progression for me. I don't think you had to be a genius to figure that out. And then I don't know how he marketed it or how Amazon became Amazon, but like to me, Amazon's not rocket science. It's a 24/7 store with cheap prices and immediate delivery. Because that shit on Amazon ain't even Amazon's. Half the time you buy it on Amazon, it comes from freaking Walmart, and vice versa. I'm not shitting you. Yeah. Some of those automated e-shoppers or whatever they're called, e-com stores. I ordered something one time from Amazon. It showed up in a Walmart box.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell?
They source from everywhere.
Yeah, but then I started talking to these e-com guys, and that's what happens. So, do you think that's a genius? Amazon, was that genius?
I think so.
I think. If you've read like his letters to shareholders, like I read like it was 20 something years of letters.
Yeah.
I think that most people just give up. And so that's why they don't get where he is. So like, is it a genius idea? Maybe, maybe not. But the fact is like, he didn't get any returns for his shareholders for 12 or something. It was a ridiculous amount of years.
Yeah.
And
what were the shareholders saying?
Yeah. And he didn't take any money, and he just over and over again sold them. He's like, in 20 years, in 30 years, this thing is going to take over the world. It's going to be enormous. This is what it's going to look like. And he was painting that vision. Yeah. And so I think that kind of fortitude and almost like hard-headedness to reach that goal, I don't think most people have that.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd say it's genius execution. You know what I mean? Like that's what I think. Like that's what the genius of the, and like especially at that size, it's genius in recruiting talent, because Jeff Bezos isn't building Amazon. He's building the people who build the teams who build Amazon. And so it's like, I think it's just continuing to move up in the scale of leverage, per unit of time. And so they've just figured out how to get the most return on their time by using every form of leverage that we have.
What do you think the most ingenious invention of all time has been?
My favorite one is air conditioning.
Probably something I've never
Especially
heard of.
after you live here.
Yeah.
I don't keep up with much of like the stuff, like inventions and the AI and
To me, Google.
Yeah.
Like, dude, whoever thought up Google, that was a genius move.
Do you remember like Ask Jeeves, Lycos, like there was all these other search engines that happened at the time? And so it's to your point about like, is it the idea or is it the execution? Like that's why I think the genius is that they were able to, like, they have the character traits that are able to like persevere. So the idea is simple, the execution is hard.
Well, like YouTube and Vimeo, for example. I heard Vimeo was first.
Yeah.
And YouTube dominated. And the main reason YouTube dominated is because they had like 8 share buttons and Vimeo only had 1.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, it's execution, right? It's like, it's all the little things that add up that become the big thing.
So have you guys cracked any good frickin' sweet partnerships at Acquisition already?
You mean in terms of companies that were like, that could sell or that like have grown a lot?
That you've said, okay, we're in. You're in.
Yeah.
I like you.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And the 3 things.
Yeah, absolutely. We have, I don't know, 8 right now.
What's your goal?
It's less about a number goal, because this is why Warren Buffett's also one of my heroes, because, he has 19 people who work at Berkshire Hathaway, and then they are responsible for 500,000 or 1 million employees. So that's the holdco. And so you just have this very concentrated group of really hardworking, really cool, really smart people who are able to influence just, zillions and zillions of customers.
Don't you ever find that it's hard to keep the true ones, because the true ones are going to say, why would I do it for you when I can do it for myself?
Do what for us?
Whatever you want me to do for you. If I'm your
employees,
if I'm your number 2,
The team? Well,
I mean, I think of it in terms of the same way with customers, which is like, if you want to keep a team, you have to give more than you're receiving.
Yeah.
Like, you have to always look at it like that. And most employers do not. They look at it like, what am I getting from you? Rather than like focusing on like, when's the last time I gave to my team? Like, how much am I giving? How much goodwill am I putting in with my team? And good people, I mean, naturally you're going to want to do that if they fit, I think, the core values. But then I think second to that is like, that's how they will be treated elsewhere. That's how they would get treated. So if you want to keep them, you would have to do that yourself.
I'm talking about the ones that are so damn good that just do it themselves for themselves.
Oh, like go be, I think, dude, okay. I think there's different kinds of people, which, and they recognize value in different ways, which is there's a lot of people that can do things on their own, but they value having a team of people around them. They value the growth it provides. They value the insights that you get. They value how much they're going to learn. They value the skills that they're going to accumulate in your company. And so I think it's the bigger vision that you can create and that you can paint for your company. They can fit their big vision within that company. And so that's the longer you want to retain someone, the bigger your vision needs to be, because then there's more runway for their vision. So their vision might be, they have this 20-year vision for their career. And your vision for your company, say it's a 100-year vision, then they can fit that 20 years into your vision if you have that much runway. But a lot of people only have a 2 or 4 or maybe not even your vision. So they only see like, I can acquire these 1 or 2 skills at your company, and then I'm going to leave because I don't see any runway. Like, I don't know what comes after that. And so I think that's how you can actually keep talent, is if you do that and then you constantly remind them of it. Like with people on our team, I'm constantly talking about where in the beginning we said they could end up, and like, how are they measuring in terms of like, are they going to get there? What kind of things do they need to change in order to achieve that goal? Like, what's it going to look like when, you're only over 2 people now, but you're going to have 100 underneath of you in X amount of years. So I think it's painting that vision and making sure that theirs aligns with the greater one of the company.
It's kind of like vision for the portfolio companies. It's like, this is where you're trying to go. It's just on a micro scale down level, but they're also going to build something underneath of them, just like a portfolio company CEO would. And I got this from Steven Schwartzman in his book, What It Takes. But he said, and it was just such an awakening for me, but he was like, level 10 talent is only attracted to level 10 opportunities. And so, if you have this unbelievable genius coder, marketer, builder, whatever, if you can attract them to, like, Facebook employs lots of very, very smart people. And some people at Facebook make $10 million, $20 million, $50 million a year, and they make more than 99.99% of entrepreneurs. And so, like, I think as long as the vision's big enough and they can fit, like Leila said, and the opportunity they can see, a lot of people are like, well, on a risk-adjusted basis, I see this thing going all the way to $1 billion or $10 billion. I'm one of the first, 20 in this company, and they have, equity plans and stock options and things like that. So I get to participate as an owner, but I don't have the risk of trying to build this on my own. I get to get paid the whole time. A lot of people, that's a pretty attractive deal.
Man, you guys seem to have it all figured out.
Hardly.
There's a lot of people struggling just to get into a fraction of the position you guys are in. Why do I say that? Well, it's not just the dough. It's the ability to produce at will. You know what I mean?
I think it's just taken I think willingness to fail, like both of us in the beginning, especially like we were willing to just eat shit for a long time.
And you probably still are.
Yeah, 100%. Building Acquisition.com, we're working more now than we have in the last 2 years, 3 years.
But I mean, I'll bet you there's more to it than anybody even knows. Only you two really know the full picture.
It's cool. It's a good model.
That's good though.
Excited for it.
Huh?
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be cool.
Well, so I'm correct.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Well,
So that's what I wanted to dig out on this show.
I think a lot of people think, oh, it's Alex and Leila, investing in companies, and they're, here's my cell phone number, and text me if you need me, and maybe I'll get on the phone with you once a month type thing. Because that's what a lot of people say they're going to do when they take equity. And I would just not be able to sleep at night if that was the case. This is a company where we're going to be able to improve every department. We have strategic advising, we have tactical advising, we have recruiting, we have IT, we've got our SOP and our system for each leg of their business that we're going to help imprint so that we can grow it. And so I think it's the way that we see that we can over deliver to the companies, which is what we want to do, because that's just like part of our brand. I think seeing it play out in the next 2 years will be really cool. And I hope that it sets a new standard for the industry in terms of, if you're going to take equity for a company, you better deliver on this level, because I think a lot of people can just talk people who are really susceptible into giving them equity and not delivering. Yeah. And it's BS.
Dude, I could do it. Yeah. And I've been offered equity, and I tell them, I'm like, dude, why would you give me 20% of your company so you can call me once a month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the hell you're doing. Right. I'm still trying to figure out my shit.
So, the goal with acquisition too is we wanted to build a business that built businesses. So we didn't have any intention, we don't have any intention of ever selling Acquisition.com, because, having now gone through exiting the other 3 businesses, I think we learned a lot. But we're building, what we'd consider our core team of geniuses. And just hardworking, really, really smart people who have tons of experience in these domains. And so if we wanted to build or get exposure to a certain marketplace, let's say we wanted to, get exposure to Web3 and crypto and all this stuff, rather than say let's go start a Web3 company, we would say, well, let's just see if we can find a Web3 company that fits within our values, and then we can help build that business as a part of the portfolio. And then from an overarching perspective, you asked earlier, why do we have so much cash, or why are we not investing as heavily? And I think it's partially because for us, we're not going to get to $1 billion, being genius investors. At least that's just not, I just don't think that's we didn't make the money that we have being investors. We made the money that we have building businesses. And so I don't want to try and compete in a vehicle that I don't think I have the experience to be the best at. I'm not saying we're the best at business, but we have already laid a track down that we put some level of time into this game, so we get disproportionate returns for every additional year we put into it. And so the equity value that is held in Acquisition.com, that's the thing that will be worth $1 billion, $5 billion, $10 billion plus in the future, not what I do with necessarily even the money that comes out of that business. And so anyways, that's at least how I see us getting to our financial goals through that vehicle.
Yeah. And I think just to add to that is, could we learn the investing side and make $1 billion from investing? Absolutely. It has been a conversation. It was probably more like a year and a half ago when we were trying to figure out what we were going to do after we sold the companies. And I know for me specifically, and then Alex agreed, I'm like, dude, I do not want the life of somebody who does that. I know plenty of people who do, and they make boatloads of money. I don't like it. It's not I want to be working with people, helping businesses grow, in the dirt, doing that stuff. I don't want to be working off these spreadsheets and, making deals and negotiations. We know the life because we have so many people that do it, and it's just not of interest to either of us. It's not what makes us, it doesn't provide much fulfillment, enjoyment.
Yeah.
Well, folks, I was going to say, man, you better go to acquisition.com and put in your bid, but doesn't sound like you got much of a chance.
As a great company, we always love looking at great companies.
I mean, we look at everyone thoroughly.
Yeah.
Well, here's what you can do anyway. You can get a $100 million offer book. What's it officially? 100M offers?
$100 million offers.
Yeah. So you guys can find it everywhere. It's purple. That's another thing, dude. Like you made it purple and big and almost second grade looking.
That's right.
But it teaches you specifically and exactly how you lay out some offers and market it.
Yeah.
Like those 4 areas.
The value equation.
Yeah, the value equation, dude. That thing right there, like that alone is worth the price of the book. The book was 99 cents.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Like, dude, why 99 cents? That thing should have been $99. And people would have, well, they may not have bought it actually.
Right, maybe.
But they didn't buy it because it's 99 cents. I think they bought it because it's you.
I think what happened is, I think there's different ways that people can find out about the book. And for everybody who didn't know who we were and just goes and sees 5,000 5-stars, on Amazon, they'll be like, well, there's other 5,000 5-star books, but this one's 99 cents. I'll give it a shot. And then they, it just gets more people in, because the thing is, like, what problem are we solving with the book? Like, why publish the book? It's not to make money. Like from the book sales, it's to just give more value to the community. And so 99 cents, the amount of people that bought it from it's funny you say the 99 cents versus like $12, but the amount of people from like Singapore and Africa and Thailand and Philippines who are like, I could afford the book. Thank you so much for making it 99 cents. I'm studying it like a course. I can't afford anything else. Like, that's cool. And the thing is
They're
like,
all reaching out.
Some of them have audiences, and then they shared it to their audiences in their communities, and all of them could afford 99 cents. And then some of those people are not in those areas, but are actually in areas and know a person. And so it's really hard, because humans are in networks. It's like really hard to map a network. But we just know that, like, if we put something that's really good out there and we provide significantly more than it costs in terms of time and money, because the big cost in the book is the time, not the money, then more people find out about us. And then ultimately, the worst case scenario is someone comes in, consumes a ton of stuff, makes tons of money. That's a pretty good worst case scenario, even if they never work with us. I'm like, that's cool. That's great. We're going to die. It's not going to matter anyway. So whatever.
That is true. See, I'm going to end it with a bomb right there. Folks, the whole thing was a bomb. Go check these guys out at Hormozi and at Leila Hormozi. Acquisition.com. You can Google them. They're very, very hard to miss. I think you guys ultimately are going to hit your $1 billion mark faster than I think you think. What is your goal?
I think
It is $1 billion.
What?
That is a goal, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like, how long though?
I would say, like, realistically, I would like to. I'll just give the Alex goal, which is ridiculously unrealistic. But I'd like to be there in 5 years. So if it's 2022 now, for the company to be worth $1 billion in 2027 that year, we need to be doing probably around $100 million in EBITDA at that point at the holdco level for us to hit that. And so I feel like we can do that.
Now, how can the Bomb Squad help?
Share our free
Let
content.
the people know.
Use it. Make your own business better.
Yeah. Start a business.
Yeah, use your content. Help the economy.
Yeah. Get jobs.
Yeah.
Like, build a good team.
Be a good person.
Yeah.
Be a good person.
Don't be greedy.
Don't be greedy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that, because of that movie Wall Street, think greed is good. Greed clarifies, captures the evolutionary essence. Remember that speech? But greed isn't good. I'm of the mind that you have, where, like, I just ultimately want to show people how to succeed. That's why I started those 3 new businesses I started, and they're all growing rapidly. Awesome. And all I did was, here's a ladder. You're going to have to sell something, number one.
Yeah.
But here's a ladder. It's sturdy. If you're willing to climb, you'll get up out of the rat race.
Yeah.
And then start them there. You guys are kind of doing the same thing for businesses.
Yeah.
So shit, dude. Well, how do I get you guys to run Lightspeed?
Oh, God. No, I knew it.
You guys just need to go in, sit down in those offices, and then call me in 90 days and say, dude, it's fixed.
Yeah.
You're welcome. And tell me what you want for it. Because I'll tell you right now, man, you guys if you guys knew what was happening here, you guys would be like, holy shit, we can't not do this.
I know. I know.
And it's education. You're an educator. This is education. I think realistically, vision wise, if Lightspeed was ran to that level, like a real C-suite in here, because right now it's just me and my partner, which they're founders, right? So you bring in a real team of executors like you're talking about, this company could end up being worth tens of billions simply from the education space, meaning schools. Like we have one right now we're starting. It's basically first grade, second grade, third grade on demand.
Oh, that's cool.
With all these school shootings. So once that thing's accredited, dude, there's parents all over the country that would much rather have their kids sit down at a computer and go through the classes rather than go to school. People say, well, what about like interaction? What about like social skills? I have no answer for that. Throw a party 3 times a week and have them all show up and play with each other. I don't know.
I think that a lot of kids can get more social skills from sports and after school activities than they do from sitting in a classroom watching a teacher all day.
And not only that, some of the social skills they develop there are from other dipshit kids that are freaking talking about, blowjobs and shit. Serious.
I don't know much about school right now,
but anyway, so that's just, again, one of those visionary things where, man, what if Lightspeed corrected the educational space where it was literally with every kid or college level person down in the country? That's billions.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. That's a big vision.
Is that not billions?
No,
I mean, that's a vision big enough for others people.
For sure.
Because there is no other interactive technology out there that I've seen.
Yeah.
You've seen, you toyed with it. Yeah. So again, like, what would you do if you were me? Let's just end it with
you have
that.
to pick one.
Pick one what?
So there's like the sales coaching, there's the actual software product itself, there's the, doing first grade, second grade, the automation of school, whatever you want to call it. There's just all of them are massive opportunities. It's just like you can't ride 2 horses with one ass. And so,
well, how do I get you to help me pick? See, I'm gonna recruit them somehow, some way, only because I got the public on it.
We are going to have business owners there from like industries where you learn the right skills and you have the right comms, you can make $500,000 a year. You can make $700,000 a year. You can make $1 million+ a year, but you have to be in the right industry. But most importantly, it's your skill level.